Good afternoon. Mrs. Delden Seneviratna, our course coordinator, and Mrs. Buddhika Godakanta, our director of college, and also Mr. Menaka, who is coordinating from the IBSL side, and also our resource panel. I think some resource persons are also attending this session, and also participants from all over the country. And let me welcome all of you to the IBSL online program. Actually, we are extremely happy because this is the first time that we are introducing this course. Earlier, we did not have a course on retail banking. And the complete credit, full credit should go to Mrs. Seneviratna, Seneviratna, because now actually she took more interest than us in developing this course. She developed the syllabus, and also she also managed to get the resource persons arranged to deliver this. Therefore, we have to credit her fully for the inception of this program. And also we are extremely happy because of the online program that we are delivering now, we have been able to open our facilities to participants from all over the country. Earlier, some of the courses were limited only for those participants who were able to attend IBSL physically. But now we have this facility where the participants can join from all over the country, and also they also have the opportunity of revisiting the lectures through YouTube and all that, and improve their understanding afterwards. They are very happy, and as I said, for the first time we introduced this. And the way that Mrs. Seneviratna has designed this is to expose our participants to the entire, all aspects of retail banking, understanding the importance of retail banking, and also the operational part of it, and risk management and the legal framework. Especially, she has embedded the course with the recent digitalization of banking operations. That means the entire scope of the retail banking is covered in that. While again thanking very much Ms. Delvin Seneviratna for taking pain, actually, I would say, because I remember how many rounds of discussions we had in developing this, and also how many rounds of discussions we had with other resource persons from other places to make this a success. And without taking much time, let me formally introduce our resource person and also the course coordinator, Ms. Seneviratna, who will in turn introduce other resource panels over time. Mrs. Seneviratna has been having experience in more than 30 years in the banking sector. And also she has been delivering lectures in all areas of banking. And for her credit, she has masters in public administration from University of Colombo, and also postgraduate diploma in international commercial arbitration. That's the legal side. And she also has actually, there's a long list. There's a long list. I think Mrs. Seneviratna don't mind my stopping in a shorter with the shorter list, because she needs more time for this one. And also she has earned some medals for her excellent performance in different fields. And also I have to say that she is a well sought after resource persons in many areas of banking, especially the legal environment, as well as other aspects of banking. With that, let me again thank Mrs. Seneviratna for taking pain in developing this, and also organizing all these things. All the details of the program will be explained by Ms. Seneviratna over time, and the assessment process, and also the other requirements. And with my experience, I have to say only one thing related to these programs, because we sometimes see participants taking very much high interest at the very beginning. But over time, that enthusiasm seems to be a little bit going down. So then don't do it. Try to get as maximum as possible, because just getting a certificate is not sufficient, because banking is a practical area of operations. Therefore, wherever possible, and raise questions and engage in now. Ms. Seniratna also has included a session for discussions where the participants can exchange their views. So it will provide them a forum for them to exchange views. Again, rather than my explaining the capabilities of Mrs. Seniratna, over time you will understand how conversant she is in developing, in delivering this and meeting your expectations by following this course. With that, again, congratulating all our participants. Ms. Seniratna, let me invite you to start the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. That's Director General of the Institute of Bankers, Sri Lanka, Mr. Bindu Karnathilaka. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for the nice introduction. So, Ayubowan and welcome to the first session in Diploma. In this Diploma, it's a brand new Diploma. Today's session, I have to explain to you. We'll start with the keynote speech, which was just delivered by Mr. Karnathilaka. Then I will be introducing you to the course. What is going to be, what are the learning objectives, how are we going to assess you, all that I'm going to explain to you in a little while. Then we have the first module. Now, first module is actually an introduction. It is not hardcore, so you can take it lightly today. And then we have a guest speaker. So I will tell you who the guest speaker is today. We have Mr. Dimantha Senaviratne, CEO and Group CEO and Director of National Development Bank PLC as our guest speaker. So we'll be ending the day with a short session with Mr. Dimantha Senaviratne, followed by a question and answer session. He's also looking forward because he's also very keen to move with you and listen, answer any of your questions. So at 4:30, we will be having Mr. Dimantha Senaviratne on board joining on this discussion. So today is actually an introductory session. And with that, I will just start you the introduction. Now, the Diploma is entirely an online training course, as it was already indicated to you. And you have online support. And we will be delivering through practicing and experienced banking professionals. I will introduce you to each and every one of them because the lecture panel, you won't be meeting them physically. So because of that, I will be introducing each one today. Some of them have already joined this session. So I'll be introducing them. Now, remember, this is not an academic course. This is a practical course where you are not going to learn a textbook and answer the questions like would-be bankers or new entrants to banking. So most of you are practicing bankers. So because of that, it will be more or less a practical and sort of a live course, not a academic end of the year you learn some book and then you answer the question. So that's not the idea and the objective of this course. So if I go to the next slide, what are the learning outcomes of this, right? Now we intend that you develop an understanding on the scope and significance of retail banking and the different types of retail banking channels, products and services, and also the processes and procedures pertaining to operations, documentation, right? And also, I think most important these days is the post-loan administration. Then the early warning signal, collection and recoveries, right? Then again, very importantly, how to attract customers, how to retain customers, then customer service, delighting the customers. So we have very experienced people who have done it over and over again. So who will be taking you through customer attraction, customer retention and customer service. Then I'll be personally taking you through the legal framework pertaining to retail banking with emphasis on anti-money laundering, know your customer requirements, then bankers' duty of secrecy. So all those things you'll be learning. and also the impact of digital banking. Now, as you go along with the lecture, you will realize how important the digitalization, the impact made by digitalization. So we will learn about the impact of entry of digital banking products. And finally, we will have an open discussion with some bank CEOs. Like today, I intend to invite some bank CEOs and close the session with the future of retail banking. Because I think we have to look ahead because we are going through a transitional area. අර කියන්න වගේ අපි නොනගත කාලේ කියන්නේ සංක්‍රාන්ති කාලේ කියන්නේ. So it will be very good if you could look ahead and equip ourselves with that skill set that is needed for the future. Then what is the objective? If you just very briefly, if you say, it's to develop the capabilities and mindset required to lead and manage retail banking business channels. Like, so you should be able to have that mindset to lead and manage the retail banking business channels as well as retail banking products, right? In order to deliver customer-centric solutions and outcomes. So, and the whole purpose of this, on the other hand, is to maintain the profitability and ensure sustainability of the banking system. Now, who are the participants? Right? Who are the participants? Now, I didn't go through the list of participants, but all in all, we have 60 participants. I'm very happy to say, because we targeted for 30 people. When the Director of Studies, Ms. Buddhika Godakanda, and I was discussing it, we actually targeted only 30 participants. So we closed at 60 and we'll be running another program, most likely early next year because of the demand. So all front-end staff handling retail customers and other banking professionals, including product champions, you have heads of departments, branch managers, product managers, middle and back office staff, then credit and lending practitioners, and also those people who are job aspirants, like who are planning to join the banking and finance, also are very welcome to participate. But this batch actually has mostly like 99% of practicing bankers, which is really good. So I think we can share because it's an interactive session. As I said, it's not a dead session where the lecturer, teachers, and the students take down. So I think retail banking is a very live activity. So because of that, the participants should be very conversant and very interactive. Now the methodology, how we are going to have these lectures delivered to you. We'll be having the lectures, then also the assignments, which I will be explaining to you in a little while, and a presentation by you, and the final exam, right? So it's lectures, assignments, presentations, and the final exam. The duration of the course is 116 hours. And the medium, of course, is in English, but mostly we will be doing it in Singlish because you are free. If there are any people who can't understand Sinhala, because I'll be explaining in both languages, the whole purpose of lecturing is to get the message across. So sometimes I'll be repeating some things in Sinhala as well, just to get the message across. So the medium, of course, is in English, but wherever possible and wherever is needed, I'll be repeating some of the text in Sinhala as well to better communicate and better understand. Assessment. Now, how are you going to be evaluated? Now, this is a very important slide. There's assignments. In fact, we will be giving you 4 assignments. 4 assignments throughout the entire session. For the entire thing, you will be having 4 assignments. After the 3 or 4 modules, we will be giving 4 assignments. 1 assignment after 3 or 4 modules, short assignments. You don't have to worry so much because this is not like doing A-levels or, it's not tough. It's a very, the things you already know, but we are brushing up and we are learning and forging ahead. So there will be 4 simple assignments. After the 3rd or the 4th module, you'll get 1 like that. Throughout the session, you'll have 4 assignments for which you will be given 25 marks for all 4 assignments. So you'll be rated out of 25% and you have to gain a minimum weightage of 50%. But I should tell you, don't take it too seriously because I know all of you are working people. So these assignments are just to check that you are in with us and you are eagerly following the course. And it is not to check your expertise or knowledge, just to check whether you understood what's going on and you are part of the program. Then most interesting is a presentation. Now I think that is new to IBSL because I think as retail bankers, you all should already you have excellent negotiation and presentation skills. So just you will be given about 10 topics covering the entire program, and of that you can select 1 topic and do a short 10-minute presentation at the end of the session. So that will be, you will be given 15 marks. So out of 15, you have to get 7.5, right? That will be a physical presentation. If the country situation is okay, when you finish the diploma course next year, we will be having the presentations where you will be asked to make a short presentation on a selected topic. We'll be giving you the presentation topics and the module, whoever the lecturer who is delivering the module, I will be there. The lecturer concerned will be there, and there will be 1 representative from the Institute of Bankers. Thing api me presentation එක කරන්නේ දෙන අපි දෙන topics 10කින් කැමති topic එකක් තෝරගෙන ඕගොල්ලෝ අපිට present කරන්න ඕනේ. මේක ඇත්තටම ඉගෙන ගත්ත දේ මත නෙවෙයි ඕගොල්ලෝ හිතන දේ ගැන. So it is not what is taught, but what you feel about this. Not about the program, but about retail banking and the changing banking scenarios in the world and in the country. So it is your opinion. So I think 40 marks is very easily you can acquire. Then you have the final exam where you have to score at least 50% of that 60 marks, right? So that is how you will be assessed. So I think this also is something now. Normally IBSL has the assignments and the final thesis. So instead of the thesis, we have made it easy and we want to see you in action. That is why we added the presentation. Now there will be some very easy topics. So you can make your presentation on a selected topic at the end of the program. Then the grading. If there's an assessment, there should be a grading mechanism. So 80 to 100, there will be a distinction. 65 to 80, a merit. 51 to 64, a pass. And 50 and below, it's a fail. And you'll be given a chance to repeat if you fail. But I am sure that all of you, the 60 participants, will get merit or a distinction. So we have to strive for that. And you all are the first batch. And I'm very confident you will make it to at least a merit, not pass, right? So it's 60 people getting merit or distinction and nothing less, right? I don't want to see any passes or fail because I consider it personally very important. It's my responsibility to ensure that you get at least a merit pass or a distinction pass. Right? මෙතන ඉන්න 60 දෙනාම අඩුම ගානේ මෙරිට් එකක්වත් ගන්න ඕනේ නැත්නම් මේක කරලා මේ ෆස්ට් බැච් එක මේක කරලා අපිට ඇත්තටම වැඩක් නැහැ. ඒ කෝස් එක මම හිතන්නේ මේක ඔයගොල්ලෝ දන්නවා. නමුත් මම very quickly I will take you through the course content. අද module 1 එක මම කරන්නේ, that is the introduction course. But of course that is just an introduction and it is not it's not hardcore. I'll be introducing you to some, I'll just keeping your thoughts awakened, like you're taking you to the course. It's not a very heavy day to day. So it's the scope of retail banking channels, products. I'll be touching them, but there'll be detailed lectures by experts in the respective fields in the retail banking services, right? Then module 2, deposits and savings products. Now we'll be learning about the liability products, the eligibility, main features of liability products, then understanding the market for retail liability products, right? Then module 3, we will be, that's quite a heavy session, payment and settlement systems and operational aspects. So here, we'll be learning about the role of central bank in payment systems, then the role of CRIB, Lanka Clear, then Lanka Financial Services Bureau. So what role do they play in this economy and this infrastructure? What specific roles do they occupy? Then the payment instruments, then the payment and settlement systems, right? Then the account opening process, KYC requirements, AML compliance. So you all know about it, but then some of you may not be directly dealing with it. So since we try to cover as much as possible, so these have been part of the course because these you have to know at least the basics. So we have included know your customer requirements, anti-money laundering compliances, then references and introductions to accounts, then the documentation, current accounts, deposits and savings accounts, personal accounts, and then the banker's duty of secrecy. So those will be covered under payment and settlement system and operational aspects. Then lending products. Lending products will be, although there's a long list, I have just put some of the key lending products: personal loans, home loans, leasing and hire purchase, mortgages, pawning, credit cards. So those are some of the products, but there's a long list. I didn't want to make it very long. That's why I've selected some of the key products. So we'll be covering the lending products and going into details of all these products in a discussion manner. Then the services, fee-based services, you all know, banks earn much money through fee-based services. So what are the fee-based services? Some fee-based services are now more or less redundant, but we will be covering fee-based services, retail banking services, like safe custody, safety lockers, forex money exchange services, executor and trustee services, then investment management, dealer broking services, bank assurance, then private banking. We'll be having a special session on private banking and wealth management because that is something which is really catching up. Now all banks have the private banking and wealth, like elite circles or the red carpet, right? Whatever you call it, it is for high net worth. So we'll raise the bar of service and we'll have private banking. So there's a separate session on private banking and wealth management done by an expert in the field. So you'll learn about what is wealth management and what is private banking, and then the money transmission services, right? Then we go to remittances. The history of remittance business, importance of the remittance business, future developments in the remittance business, then geographical spread of remittance business, both locally and globally, and opportunities for the financial institutions in the remittance business. So in your area of duty, in your area of operation, what are the opportunities, right? So that will be dealt in the under remittances in the session. Then we have a separate module on remittances. Then we have investment banking and wealth management services for retail customers. Now again, other than the usual accounts opening and then the normal banking and day-to-day lending services, I think we should go a step beyond. That is why we included wealth management services and investment banking services. So there again, we have expert who will take you through the basics of wealth management and investment banking, for retail customers, because investment banking is the scope is much higher. It is, so we'll be just touching, right? We'll be just getting the basics where retail bankers and retail customers are concerned. So it will be not a detailed part of investment banking or wealth management, but where retail customers are concerned, we'll be doing the overview of investment banking and wealth management, as well as introduction to investment banking products and services, and most importantly, the opportunities. What are the opportunities in this field? Right? Then we move on to module 8. That is, as I told you, very interesting and very informative session. We will do the overview and scope. Then relationship managers, high profile customers, and who are the leading players? What are the opportunities? And again, delighting the customer and retention, right? So here again, you will be hearing, you will be taught by not taught, you will be sharing ideas by an industry leader, a very experienced person. So private banking services is another very interesting area, which I'm sure all of you will be very interested and will look forward to. Then the retail banking panels. So these are the new trends or the future, right? Physical distribution channels, alternate distribution channels, and new players in the field, and digital banking. So evolution of digital business, types of services. Now you know digital business can attract a lot of anti-money laundering issues and compliance issues. So we learn about those. What are the likely issues that will crop up? Then what is the framework to circumvent those issues? Then the opportunities. Then we look at the future developments, scope, again, retention of customer and relationship management. Now you will see in most of these sessions, most of these modules, we talk of customer retention and relationship management, right? So that is a key area in retail banking. So to retain the customer and maintaining the relationship is key. So that is why you get retention of the customer and relationship management in most of these modules as a discussion point. Then again, another very interesting area, selling digital banking products, services, and customer relationship management. You have one whole module for searching for customers and what do customers look for. When you search for customers, you have to get into their shoes, sit on their chair, right? And customer ge පැත්තෙන් මොනවාද customer බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ බැංකුවකින්, retail bank එකකින්. එතකොට ඒ පැත්ත කතා කරන්න ඕනේ. Then getting an appointment, customer කෙනෙක්ගෙන් appointment එකක් ගන්න හැටි. Meeting, greeting and icebreakers. So basic, some of these you may be very familiar, but still we'll be discussing this meeting, greeting, icebreakers. Now when you meet somebody, you can't just ask how much do you want, right? You have to come to that topic. So that's the initial icebreaker between the meeting, greeting and getting to the customer's need. So meeting, greeting and icebreakers. Then identifying customers' needs and wants, right? So what does the customer want? If the customer is coming for a housing loan, whether we can also sell him a credit card or a minor savings account or a health plan, an insurance product, like product bundling, cross-selling, selling your proposal. So it's an art. I think you have to learn the art of selling, right? And also understanding, going into the customer's shoes, right? Then closing a sale. Now I remember most of the time, the new salespeople, they talk and then they don't close a sale. So closing a sale again is a very difficult, and it's a mastering a specific transaction. I mean, how you close a sale? You can always identify a need, but in this fierce competition. You know, you are not the only bank. There are so many banks and so many bank branches. So how do you close a sale, right? How can you be the one that they are looking for, right? Then the follow-up action, right? Then retention of customers and relationship management. Again, customer retention and relationship management, right? So it's repeated, and each module customer තියාගන්නේ කොහොමද? Customer relationship එක පවත්වන්නේ කොහොමද? So I think that is key. That is why it is repeatedly under each module you are discussing the retention of customers and relationship management. Then it comes to my area, overview of the legal infrastructure. Now this again is a very complicated. You can do a whole year. All 14 modules you can do on legal infrastructure. But you are not learning to be lawyers now here. So again, we will be touching on the very briefly in 4 hours. We will be doing one session on the legal infrastructure. Under that, we will be covering what are the regulated institutions, then the primary and secondary legislation, then regulatory authority. Who is regulating and who is regulated? කවුද regulate කරන්නේ? කාවද regulate කරන්නේ? මොනවද regulate කරන්නේ? කොටින් කිව්වොත් එන්නේ එක තමයි අපි ඉගෙන ගන්න. හරි? කවුද කාවද කොහොමද කරන්නේ? Right? Then we'll be also learning about the deposit insurance scheme, which has not been included anywhere else. Then consumer protection, right? Customer chart එක ගැන මම පොඩ්ඩක් touch කරනවා. Financial ombudsman scheme එක ගැන touch කරනවා. Anagati, what are the future regulatory challenges, right? Because now we are talking about a lot of digitalization, blockchain, AI, everything. But then where does it fit in a regulatory environment? So those are the regulatory challenges. And we should be mindful. I don't think we can find solutions to most of these now. But we should be alert. At least we know that these things can crop up in the next 1 or 2 years. It's not in 10 years, my dear. It is going, these challenges will be cropping up very soon. So because of that, we have to be alert and keep our eyes open. So with this session, overview of legal infrastructure, I'll be personally doing it. Then recoveries and collections, again, that's an area I'll be handling with my long years of experience in recoveries. So post-loan disbursement management. So once a loan is given, you cannot pass it to the recoveries team and wash your hands off. The telecollection team and the recoveries team is not going to look after. A good loan once given, I think 80% of the responsibility is lying at the point of sale and the credit once you give it. So because of that, post-loan disbursement and management, I'm going to lay heavy emphasis. Then the early warning signals. What are the early warning signals when you have to be watch out, right? Then options available for recovery, right? What are the options available for recovery? So we'll be touching from parate execution to debt recovery, then the simple money recoveries, mortgage bond action, all that will be covering, and the procedures. Then finally, but I always preach and I strongly believe prevention is always better than a cure. Because although I am a lawyer, I don't advise you to take clients to court, because only lawyers get rich at the end of the court proceedings. So it's always prevention is better than cure. So the procedures from mediation board to the parate execution, all the procedures we'll be learning. I think I have about 8 hours for that. So we'll be covering 4 hours. We'll be touching on recoveries and collections. And finally, the way forward and the open forum. I think this is the most interesting session and the interesting slide, the interesting module. Sorry, not the slide, the module in this whole program. Right? Here, I plan to invite some of the industry leaders, some CEOs if possible. And this is an open forum. So if the country situation is good, we will have it as a physical forum, like an open, open session where you can ask questions from the CEOs, like that, right? So it's a future of retail banking, where retail banking is heading, fintech revolution, the new players in the field, brick and mortar versus cashless, right? The financial needs of the future customers. So those are the things that will be covered in the open forum. So I think with that, we'll close the session, right? So that is the course content. Now, next most interesting thing is, who is going to deliver these? Right now, I have been talking. I mentioned some will be delivered by me, but I'm not an expert. I don't think I'm an expert in anything. I know a little about some fields, but so we selected some experts, people who know and who have been practicing bankers. Now remember, here we have only practicing and very experienced bankers and not academics who will be taking you, because they'll be sharing experiences. Because what is on paper, you can always read a textbook or Google and get it, right? But I believe sharing of experiences, telling stories, how we handled these situations, complex stories. So those are the things you will hear, not just a textbook academic exercise. So to introduce you to the panel of lecturers, I should say this is not in a particular order of importance. I have just put whoever gave their details first as first. So we have Mr. Rajitha Thoradeniya. Now Rajitha is a professionally qualified banker. He counts over 28 years of banking experience, and he's currently working as head of branch operations at STB Bank. He was a vice president, retail banking, remittances, and IT operations at ICICI Bank, right? So Rajitha is quite an expert. I have worked with Rajitha, so I think he will bring to table a lot of his exposure and experience, and he will be covering payment settlement systems, then the role of CBSL, the role of CRIB, then the payment instruments, then account opening process, and the reference introductions. So that entire operational part will be covered by Rajitha. Now, why am I putting all these photographs is because sometimes we will not get to meet these people in person, so you know who is doing what and how we have structured the program. So that's Rajitha Thoradeniya, currently head of branch operations at STB Bank. Then we have Mr. Gunadasa, a very, very experienced banker who has, I think he counts the most number of experience, over 37 years of banking experience. He has been the Assistant General Manager from People's Bank and General Manager CEO of Uva Development Bank. So he has been a resource person. We are very lucky to have Mr. Gunadasa. He's an expert in pawning. So we have to draw expertise from various fields. So Mr. Gunadasa was our undisputed choice, I should say. So Mr. Gunadasa will be covering the session on pawning, and he'll be taking you through all aspects of pawning. Then we have Kusal De Silva. Kusal is from Sampath Bank. Kusal is working as an ATM International Banking. Kusal counts over 26 years of experience, and he has gone through the entire gamut of banking, covering retail, cards, HR, admin, bank operations. From end to end, he has covered. So he is a senior fellow of IBSL and fellow of CIMA, and a graduate of the University of Colombo and an MBA from PIM. And he's also a participant at the Harvard Business School covering executive development programs. So he has exposures to over 30 overseas markets where worker remittances are concerned. So Kusal will be covering the banking services part, most of it. So Kusal is quite an expert, and I have no doubt that she will be an excellent lecturer. I haven't personally worked with Kusal, but from what I've heard of Kusal, so he's definitely an expert, and we have selected him to cover these areas in our lecture panel. Then we have Rukshan Senaratne. Rukshan Senaratne counts over 25 years of banking experience with Standard Chartered, NDB, and at National Bank, and specializing in credit assessment, analysis, credit risk management, and managing centralized operations. Now, currently, he is the head of centralized credit operations at HNB. So, he is a master when it comes to retail credit, I should say. So, Rukshan will be covering personal loans, credit and debit cards, and Rukshan also holds a master's degree in business administration awarded by the University of Malaysia. So, Rukshan, we are happy to have you. I think Rukshan has joined the discussion. So, we will be learning about personal loans, how to appraise a loan, the credit process of both credit cards and personal loans with Rukshan Senaratne. Then we have Ajit Senandira. Ajit Senandira is the head of leasing at NDB Bank. Now, Ajit counts over 33 years of industry experience. Now, Ajit holds a BSc as also an MBA, and he is a treasurer of the Leasing Council of Bankers, and also a visiting lecturer at the University of California. Now, Ajit is a leasing specialist, leasing and hire purchase specialist. So, Ajit will be covering the lending products, the leasing and hire purchase, right? And also, Ajit will be covering the retail selling part, the service, customer relationship, identifying customer needs. So that part, because I have personally seen Ajit from taking leasing to a different level at NDB from where it was. So I think we will have quite a few things to learn from Ajit Senadira. So we really look forward to have Ajit on our panel. Then we have Vindya Jayasekara. Again, we are very lucky to have Vindya. Vindya is an honors graduate in civil engineering, first class honors from the University of Moratu. I mean, she's an engineer by profession. Plus, she's a SIMA and a financial analyst and also a financial risk manager. And she holds an MSc in finance from the University of Colombo. Now, she's currently a vice president at NDB Wealth Management, and she's one of the shining stars in the industry. She lectures almost at every university which has and every institute which has panels on investment banking and finance. And also I should add that she is one of the 10 recipients of the Fulbright scholarship, right? And she was the sole recipient to study in the field of management. So I think in Vindya consented to be on our panel. She will be covering investment banking, wealth management services for retail customers, overview of investment banking and wealth management services, and introduction. And most importantly, she will be covering the opportunities that's available. So Vindya is also director of the CFA Society. Thank you, Vindya, for consenting to be on our panel. And I have no doubt that you will learn a lot of things, new things from Vindya, because some of the other lecturers will be teaching you things you already know. But the people like Vindya will add a lot of value because you will be learning things that, new things that mostly alien to most of us, right? So some new frontiers in retail banking you will be exploring with Vindya. Then you have Shera Hassan, currently the Vice President and Head of DFCC Pinnacle Banking, Branch Banking, Planning and Implementation. Shera also counts about 25 years in commercial banking expertise. Now, Shera is qualified in investment and wealth planning certificates and also in Islamic banking. She counts experiences with ANZ Brindley, Standard Chartered, and later she served in the capacity of Assistant Vice President of Privileged Select Banking at NDB. Now, Shera was also conferred the Female Private Banker of the Year by Global Private Banking Innovation Awards of the digital by the digital banker. So I think again Shera is a very lively and very bubbly character. She in fact didn't want to do this online. She wanted to have it in physical form. So if the country situation improves, for those of you who can make it, and the others will have a online session, we will try to accommodate Shera if the country situation improves as a physical session, because Shera in fact wanted to do it live, not online, right? So what if things are the same, we will have to opt for an online session, Shera. But the Shera will be covering private banking services, overview and scope, retail management, high profile customers. Now, මේ සල්ලි ගොඩක් තියෙන මිනිස්සුන්ව කොහොමද බලා කියාගෙන වෙන බැංකු වලට ඔයා ආරක්ෂා කරගන්නේ, ඒගොල්ලන්ව රඳව ගන්න කියන එක මම හිතන්නේ Shera is an expert. So you will really learn from Shera how to manage the relationship with high profile customers. I think that's a very interesting session you will have. And the final one, delighting the customer. Now here, not managing, right? Shera is going to take you delighting the customer. It's more than managing and retaining. The මේවිලා customer තබා ගැනීමවත් customer maintain කරනවත් එක නෙවෙයි. customer සතුටු කරලා නිකන් අපි සිංහලෙන් කියනවා නම් අර අමන්දානන්දයට පත් කරනවා කියන්නේ. අන්න ඒ වගේ තත්යකට ගෙනියන හැටි තමයි Shera ඔයගලන්ට කියලා දෙන්න යන්නේ. Right? That is Shera Hasan. And then we have Manjeev Abesundara. Now, Manjeev is currently a remittance marketing manager, marketing and operations manager at NDB Bank. Now, Manjeev also counts 28 years banking experience. Now, Manjeev counts to his credit experience with 3 banks, HSBC, Sampat and NDB Bank. So, Manjeev is an expert in remittance, right? Western Union, he's a real Western Union man, right? So other than Western Union, he will also teach you about other remittance mechanisms, because he really knows that part really well. In addition, he will be also touching some of the deposits and savings products. Now, Manjeev holds a master's in business administration in marketing from Manipal University, India, and he also has professional qualifications from the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants and diploma in banking from the Institute of Bankers. Now, he is also an ISO certified auditor, a certified trainer by the IFC, and a Six Sigma process developer. Now, what Manjeev will be covering would be deposits and savings products, then type of liability products, eligibility, main features of liability products, understanding the market for retail liability products, remittances, history, importance, and future development, then also how to promote remittance business in your business area. So it will be specific areas. What are the areas that you have to improve? How to promote? That is Manjeev's expertise, which he will be telling you. So I have personally worked with Manjeev, and I know how confident and how well equipped he is in these areas. So again, we are very lucky to have you, Manjeev, on this panel. Then we have young Indika Galabada. I think Indika Galabada looks more of a model here. Now, Indika is currently functioning as Head of Cards and Digital at STB Bank. Now, Indika has 15 years of work experience, right? Although he looks like 21, he has 15 years of work experience. So I'm not going to tell you his age. I think this is a former photograph of his. Indika, I think I'm not offending you. Now, Indika has 15 years of experience, and he has been with HSBC, Ceylon prior to joining STB Bank. Now, we will be opening out this as a discussion, and we will be getting some industry experts also at the end of the session, because this is an area where we look forward. So Indika will be taking you, because why I selected Indika, there are many experts in this area. But Indika තෝරගත්තේ Indika මෙතන කට්ට කාපු ළමෙක් නිසා. ඒ කියන්නේ Indika සෑහෙන්න මේ මහන්සි වෙලා මේක process එක කවුරුත් හදපු process එකක් දුවන එක නෙවෙයි. සෑහෙන කට්ටක් ආපු නිසා. Because he has been, how can you put it? He has been taking this from zero to what it was. So then you have to do a lot of hard work. So Indika has done it, and Indika has been බැනුම් අහලා කට්ට කාලා ආපු ළමෙක් නිසා තමයි මම ඉන්දික තෝරගත්තේ, because then he can explain it to somebody who is a student much better than people who are at a different level, right? So I thought for some areas I have selected different segments, but in this particular area I thought Indika would be the best lecturer because he can explain you from zero, from the base upwards, because most of us are not experts in this area, in digital banking. So Indika will be telling you about the digital banking part and the physical distribution channels, about alternate distribution channels, about ATMs, CDNs, all those, and also the future developments and scope. Then finally you have me. I don't think I have to introduce myself because the Director General already introduced me. I would just like to say I'm a lawyer by profession, and I will be doing the scope, that today's introduction. Then I will be also doing home loans because I served as the head of home loans at NDB Housing Bank for long years, about 6-7 years. I headed the bank. Then the overview of the legal infrastructure. Then future regulatory challenges. Then I'll be also doing the recoveries and collection lectures. So those would be covered. Those are the areas that's going to be covered by me. So this is your panel of lecturers for the next 1 year or so. And most importantly, I think this is the man of the match, right? Your course coordinator, right? He will be liaising with you for all your needs where the assessments are concerned, collecting your assessments, scheduling your presentations, reminding you all. So any issues, and then if you wanted any updates, any questions not answered by the panel, so all that, Menaka is the key man. So he's the course coordinator. I think you all have his email address. So I asked him to give his mobile numbers also. So Menaka will be the course coordinator for this session from IBSL side. We will be doing the lectures, but Menaka is more or less the course coordinator. So if you have any unanswered questions regarding the session or from any of the lecturers, you can always liaise through Menaka or regarding anything. Right? So all the lecturers are very free and very looking forward to walk with you through the next 1 year. So that concludes the introduction. So I will be breaking for about, now it's almost 2:30. I'll be breaking for 15 minutes and starting again the first module at 2:45. So that is, I hope you will all join in at 2:45. So for the first module of this session. Thank you and look forward to see you at 2:45. So with that, we will start the first module. Right? That's the introduction, module 1. Now I want to start by saying something which I have been always telling when I was holding different positions in retail banking. Retail banking කියන එක හරියට අතුර යනවා වගේ. Right? අතුර යනවා වගේ කියන්නේ you are walking on a tightrope, right? Because you strongly believe that customer is the king. That's what you're taught. Customer is the king. But on the other hand, bank pays your salary. So I have been repeatedly telling this to all the people who have worked under me. I think some of them are in this program as well. Customer is the king, but the bank pays your salary. So that's why I call retail banking අතුර යනවා වගේ කියලා, walking on a tightrope, because you have to safeguard the interests of the bank primarily, and while looking after your customer, maintaining the relationship, and also delighting your customer, all that, right? So with that, I will start this session. So don't take it lightly. Retail banking is an art by itself, right? The banking industry is, I have highlighted, you will see some of the words, right? So those are the key words, right? You don't have to by heart anything. Most unlikely you will get any questions from this session also, because this is the introduction. Just listen and try to absorb what is being told, and you can share your thoughts on a later platform. The banking industry is undergoing a paradigm shift in which traditional players are struggling to stay relevant in terms of product offerings, future-ready innovation, seamless and individualized customer experience at every touch point and service engagement. ඒ කියන්නේ දැන් අපේ traditional players ලා දැන් බැංකු විශාල බැංකු ලෝකෙ පුරාම they are struggling to stay relevant. හරි ඒ කියන්නේ දැන් නූතනයට ආදේශ වෙන්න අමාරුවෙන් හරි ආදේශ වෙන්න වෙනවා. හරි. ඉතින් ඒ තත්ත්වයක තමයි අපි අර මං කලින් කිව්වා වගේ සංක්‍රාන්ති කාලයක තමයි අද අපි ඉන්නේ. Retail banking segment has been most impacted due to its scale of operations and dependence on technology. So retail banking segment is the most impacted, I should say, due to the scale of operations. Now, when we go on, we will learn the scale of operations because it's huge operation of small ticket, right? So, and the dependence on technology. Then competition from fintechs is adding complexity and encouraging banks to move beyond traditional products to meet changing customer needs. Nevertheless, despite the prevalent lockdown situation, banking operations were executed smoothly as banks effectively deployed technology, demonstrating unprecedented agility and resilience. The industry made a seamless transition to handling large-scale virtual operations, executing untested operating models within weeks. Then මොකද්ද මේකෙන් කියන්නේ? Lockdown එකේ හරි බැංකු සුමානෙන් දෙකෙන් කොහොම හරි process එකකට වෙන්න virtual operations. දැන් අපි ඕගලන්ට මෙහෙම lecture කරන එක හරි. දැන් ඒක ආයේ අපි lecture series එකක් ගිහිල්ලා මෙතනට ආවේ නෑ. දැන් බැංකු මට මතකයි first lockdown situation එකේ අපි virtual meetings වලට එන්න කාටවත් training දෙන්න උන්නේ නෑ. right? board meetings virtual තියන්න කවුරුත් ඒ කියන්නේ class එකකට ගියේ නෑ. right? So, despite the prevalent lockdown, banking operations were executed smoothly as banks effectively deployed technology, demonstrating unprecedented agility and resilience. ඒ බැංකු මේක කොහොමරි කර දීලා ලස්සනට transit වුණා. කියන්නේ එකකින් තව එකට transit වුණා for virtual operations, right? So within weeks of lockdown, banks all over somehow I should say shifted, right? So which makes it even worse because now we have to go on this basis, right? Retail banking. Now what is retail banking? It's very simple. Execute transaction, even if you look at Wikipedia or whatever, it will say transactions directly with individual members of the public or consumers rather than corporations or other banks. So it provides financial services to the general public, right? So it's also sometimes called mass market banking and referred to also as personal consumer banking or personal banking, right? Everyday banking that happen between consumers and their personal banks. And it's designed for everyday needs of an average consumer. And it's the visible banking to the general public, right? Visible banking කියන්නේ අපි දකින්නේ බැංකුවක මෙන්න මේ පැත්තේ විතරයි. දැන් corporate banking, investment banking, එහෙම නැත්නම් project financing වගේ ඒවා අපි දකින්නේ නැහැ. ඒවා බිලියන ගණන් දුන්නත් මෙන්න මේක තමයි එළියට පේන banking එක. ඒ කියන්නේ මිනිස්සු ඇවිල්ලා pension පඩිය ගන්න පොලිමේ ඉන්නවා. එහෙම නැත්නම් check cash කරගන්න පහුගිය දවස්වල පොලිමක ඉන්නවා. හරි ඒ වගේ අපි දකින්නේ visible banking to the general public, right? So here we deal directly with individual members of the public. Now, who are retail customers? Retail customers, of course, are members of the general public taking care of their personal financial needs, as opposed to organizations or businesses that might need more complex solutions, right? So these are mostly general public and their personal financial needs. Retail banks are designed to meet these needs with services tailored to individuals. අපි මෙතන කතා කරන්නේ පුජ්‍යලයෝ. ඒ කියන්නේ භෞතික පුජ්‍යලයෝ. දැන් කම්පැනි එකක් ගත්තොත් ඒක නීතිමය පුජ්‍යලෙන්නේ. දැන් මෙතන ඉන්නේ භෞතික පුජ්‍යලයෝ. ඉතින් එක් පුජ්‍යලයාගේ අවශ්‍යතා ගැන තමයි අපි මෙතන කතා කරන්නේ. The level of personalized retail banking services offered to a client depend on their income level and extent of their relationship with the bank. Then personalized service කියලා අපි හැම කෙනාටම personalized service දෙන්න වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ කියන්නේ අපේ බැංකුවේ අපේ branch එකේ clientsලා 5000ක් ඉන්නවා නම් 5000ටම එක විදිහේ service දෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක හින්දා තමයි දැන් අර මං කිව්වා වගේ share වගේ high net worth වලට serve කරන අය. elite banking වලට serve කරන අය. එහෙම නැත්නම් ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ income level එක මත අපි ඒගොල්ලන්ව categorize කරලා එක එක විදිහට treat karna. While a seller or a customer service representative would generally serve a client of a modest means, an account manager or a private banker would handle the banking requirements of a high net worth individual who has an extensive relationship with the bank. Now, if you take privilege banking or else a high net worth banking in a bank, you have relationship managers assigned for clients. Now, if I'm a high net worth client of a bank, I will have somebody to call and bug. Why didn't this payment go? Why didn't you send my cash, right? So these people go to delivers cash to residences, right? They say, I mean, during New Year time, they take cakes or whatever birthdays they wish. So this is a level of different levels of service based on the income level and extent of relationship, right? So that is retail customers. Then the characteristics. What are the characteristics in today's retail banking sector? Now, retail banking sector is characterized by multiple products, right? It can be deposits, credit cards, insurance, investments, securities, multiple products and multiple channels, right? Multiple channels of distribution. It's call centers, branches, internet banking, kiosks, whatever, the student saving centers. So multiple channels of distribute. Then also multiple groups, customer groups. Now we have senior citizen group. Then we have the minor group. Then we have the professional group, right? Now, and products sometimes catering to these segments. Now youth group, right? A lot of banks have youth accounts now, right? I mean, there you see on television, there are a lot of youth accounts, right? Gen X accounts, and there's professional accounts, senior citizens accounts. So multiple customer groups, multiple products, multiple channels, and multiple customer groups. Although brick and mortar branches are still necessary to convey the sense of solidity and stability that is crucial to banking, retail banking perhaps is one area of banking that has been most impacted by technology. Then බැංකුවක ඒ කියන්නේ brick and mortar branches කියන්නේ ඇත්තටම physical branch එකක්. අවශ්‍ය වුණාට මේ බැංකුව මෙතන තියෙනවා. මේ බැංකුවක් මේක කියන එක අර තියෙන solid ගතිය මේවා කරන්න තිබුණාට ඒකෙන් දැන් ඇත්තටම technology ඒ තත්ත්වෙන් පොඩ retail banking මුදවගෙන වෙනත් තලයකට අරන් යනවා. ඒක නිසාම retail banking is perhaps one of the most impacted areas by technology. So what are the features of retail bank? Now here, all of you, most of you, I know these things, right? So I'm just brushing your knowledge. I don't think these are anything new for you, but I'm just putting it in perspective so that to form you for the next 1 year of diploma course, right? These are things you already know. What are the features? Asset portfolio diversification. In retail banking, the fund is allocated to a wider range of customers, which mitigates the risk of non-performing assets. ඒ කියන්නේ ගොඩක් කස්ටමර්ස්ලා අතර මේක බෙදෙනවා. ඉතින් ඒක නිසා යම් තරමකට NPA mitigation එකක් වෙනවා. Second feature caters to individual needs. It offers financial services or facility to people right from deposit, withdrawal and credit savings and online. ඒ කියන්නේ මිනිස්සුන්ගේ එක එක්කෙනාගේ තියෙන අවශ්‍යතාවලට individual අවශ්‍යතාවලට cater කරනවා. තුන්වෙනි එක economies of scale, large customer base. So it's an economy of scale. If a bank wants to make profit, you have to have an economy of scale from retail banking. Then large volume of transaction. A retail bank manages large bulk transactions simultaneously since there is an excessive number of users or customers. Then risk mitigation, as I already told you, since the assets are spread among a huge customer base, a low NPA can be expected, thus reducing the chances of loss for the bank. හරි ඒ කියන්නේ huge customer base එකක්. දැන් අපි කියමු දැන් දීවරයන්ට මේ අපි ණය දීලා තියෙනවා නම් හරි දීවර ප්‍රජාවට ණයක් පොඩි ණයක් අපි තෝරගෙන දීලා තියෙනවා නම් හරි business loan එකක් නෙවෙයි personal loan එකක් දීලා තියෙනවා. හරි නැත්නම් credit card එකක් දීලා තියෙනවා. දැන් මේ වගේ වෙලාවක දීවල ප්‍රජාවට ප්‍රශ්නයක් වුණා කියලා ඒක ලොකු ප්‍රශ්නයක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඇයි? එච්චර ලොකු consumer base එකක් තියෙනවා. ඒක spread කරන්න පුළුවන් risk mitigation factor එකක් හැටියට. Then low transaction values. The amount of each transaction taking place is usually nominal because of the majority of consumers belong to a low net worth category. සාමාන්‍ය මිනිස්සුන්ට අපි cater කරන්නේ. මතක තියාගන්න අපි cater කරන්නේ high net worth professionals ට විතරක් නෙවෙයි. මේ එදිනෙදා අපිට මගතොටේ හම්බෙන සාමාන්‍ය මිනිස්සු low transaction values, right? Then omni-channel banking. වෛවාරණ විවිධාකාර channels provide seamless integration and a constantly pressurable customer experience across all channels. So ATMs, internet banking, kiosks, branches, mobile banking, whatever you name it, now retail banking is delivering it. Then high competition, right? Then ගොඩක් foreign banks would retail banking වලට යනවා, right? Because it's one of the reasons why many wholesale bankers like foreign banks are going for consumer financing for marginally higher net worth individual, right? Because corporate එක client කෙනෙක්ට මිලියන 300ක් දීලා වැටෙනවට වඩා මේ පොඩි මිනිස්සු 1000කට ඒක දීමු එතන මේ risk mitigation එකක් තියෙන නිසා ගොඩක්ම there is severe competition, right? Then very attractive marking segment. This is a live segment, right? This is not a dead segment. So every day it's changing. So it's a very attractive marking segment and high processing cost, right? Due to large volume of small transactions, there's a high processing cost because each transaction has to be processed. So there is a high processing cost and high HR involvement. You need dedicated professional people at junior and middle management level to cater to all these people and their small value transactions. Then the simplicity of products and services. Now, you can't do products that complicated products like in wealth management or investment banking. You can't do formulas with these people, right? Products have to be very simple and well defined, easily serviceable and potentially profitable. අපි කොච්චර විශ්වකර්ම ඔලු දාලා ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එකක් හැදුවත් ඒක සරල නැත්නම් ඒක ලේසි කරන්න බැයි නම් වාසියක් දෙන්න නැත්නම් ඒක රිටේල් බැංකින් වල පවතින්නේ නැහැ. මම දන්නවා අත්දැකීමෙන්ම we have introduced many products but they die a natural death. Not because the bank is withdrawing, the clients reject the product because sometimes the product is too complicated or very difficult to explain. It's not easy to service and it's not profitable. Sometimes it's not profitable to the client and profitable to the bank. So it should be always a win-win situation, right? Then the dependence of technology. Now, dependence on technology is a key thing, right? Range of product options with high technology component, right? So the dependence on technology, like any other product, retail banking is severely dependent on technology. Then focus on service, close attention and quick service to customers. Because if you don't serve the customer will go to your competitor. Customer solutions and total service providers. Total service. ඒ කියන්නේ customerට අපෙන් card එකක් අරගෙන අනිත් බැංකුවෙන් housing loan එකක් ගන්න කිව්වොත් you are at a loss, right? So you have to continued focus on service. And value differentiation comes from customer service. Remember, all banks have savings account. All banks have minor accounts. Almost all banks have ladies accounts, right? But why do some products stand out? The value differentiation actually comes from customer service. It is actually not from the rate or the perks. අපි එක එක ඒවා බන්ඩල් කරලා දෙනවනේ. ඉන්ෂුරන්ස් එකක් දෙනවා, පොඩි මල්ලක් දෙනවා, එහෙම නැත්නම් කුඩයක් දෙනවා. හරි? නමුත් ඒකට වඩා long term sustainability හැමදාම කුඩ බෙද බෙද ඉන්න බෑනේ. දැන් හැමදාම ගමන් මලු බෙද බෙද ඉන්න බෑනේ. Right? You can do it once, twice, thrice. Right? The moment you don't give, the customer will go. But here, remember, value differentiation comes from the service, right? Focus on service. The relevance. Now, Lankawe banku kiyak තියෙනවද? banku 32ක්. 32 banks, 26 LCBs, 6 LSBs, including 2 savings banks, 2 housing banks, and 2 development banks. Then the country has 3,612 bank branches. This is excluding customer student service centers. අර ඉස්කෝලේ වල තියෙන චූටි ශිෂ්‍ය බැංකු තියෙන ඒව ඇරුණම තව 3000 ගාණක් බැංකු branches තියෙනවා. Then 1.9 million credit cards in use and 21.5 million debit cards in use, right? 9.3 million phone-based transactions during the 6 months, January to June 2020. Now, I extracted these details from the Central Bank Annual Report 2020, right? So now it must be more. This is last year, right? 9.3 million phone-based transactions. 3.41 million internet-based transactions during the 6 months, January to June 2020. And the banking densities, 16.6 per 100,000 persons. Why I am putting this slide is for you to understand the size of the pie and the competition, right? And the competition, the fierce competition and the size of the pie. අපි ඔක්කොටම බැංකු කොයි බැංකුවෙන් ආවත් අපිට බෙදා බැංකු විතරයි මේ ෆිනෑන්ස් කම්පැනි මයික්‍රෝ ෆයිනෑන්ස් ඉන්ෆෝමල් සෙක්ටර් නේ හරි මේ බැංකු විතරයි එතකොට අනිත් හරියට මොකද වෙන්නේ හරි ඔයගලන්ට හිතා ගන්න පුළුවන් කොච්චර ලොකු කම්පිටිෂන් එකක් මෙතන තියෙනවද කියලා දැන් අපි ගත්තොත් commercial banks personal loans and advances now this again from CBSL annual report 2020. If you take consumer durables, right? Fridge under, fan under, microwave ovens under, consumer durable loans, rupees 1,330,000. So it is 5.2% of all loans and advances. If you add it up, now retail loans add up to 35.5, right? Now this is only retail loans, right? So it is more than 1/3, right? Me podi මිනිස්සුන්ට අපි එකතු වෙලා දෙන loans ටික is 1/3 of all loans and advances. ඒක බෙදලා බැලුවොත් අද කියන්නේ අපි classify කරලා නැහැ. Central Bank එකේ classify කරන්නේ නැති ඔක්කොම ටික වැටෙන්නේ other loans කියලා. හරි? හැබැයි මේවා personal consumer වලින් දුන්න personal loans and advances. So personal housing වලටම ගිහිලා තියෙනවා 9.9%. 9.9%, almost 10% of all loans and advances granted by all banks last year, 10% has gone to housing. Pawning almost 4%. Credit cards almost 2%. Education negligible, right? Personal health, negligible. Other is like when we don't classify, right? So it can be pension loans, Ranaviru loans, whatever you call it. So those constitute about 13.4. So the entire, if you take the entire thing, it is more than 1/3 of all loans and advances granted. So what I'm trying to tell you through this is a huge market, right? So what we are going to learn has huge potential. Then when it comes to mobilization of deposits, unfortunately, I couldn't segregate what are retail deposits. So I presume most of the savings deposits are retail, right? This again from the central bank annual report, right? So it is 26. This is not only retail, this is entire deposit mobilization. So you can see savings deposit constitute more than 25%, right? So it is 25, more than 25% is clustered under savings deposit. Now here I have a very, now this is everything. Huh? Thrift and not only banks, cooperative rural banks, thrift credit and this is TCCs and CRBs, right? Now I have a very interesting question here. 90% of these accounts, right? Only 90% of these accounts are bank accounts are active, right? There is so many redundant or inactive accounts. People just open accounts, but reactivation or maintenance of accounts are, so when you take statistics, Sri Lankan account opening statistics is huge, but how many people maintain relationships, right? So that's a very interesting question, and very interesting question for a presentation also. Why do people abandon? I mean, you just open an account and you leave it halfway through. Because I always believe these are branch opening accounts, and sometimes for promotions you open accounts, but people don't maintain. That is why we have such a huge number of dormant accounts. Now, if you take retail banking versus corporate banking is a key profit center for most banks. Many banks bring their corporate finance business under the umbrella of corporate banking. So this term refers to banking that serves corporate customers, like retail banking serves retail individual customers. Here, we serve corporate customers. In other words, they deal with business across the spectrum. Common types of corporate banking services include corporate finance, credit management, asset management, and cash management, right? So they deal with large amounts of money due to the volume of large-scale loans offered to big businesses, while retail banking focuses on average customer. Corporate banking often yields the highest profits for a bank due to the large sums of money involved in corporate loans. The business model is typically based on relationship management and sector specialization. Now, in banks, you know, for corporate banking, you have sector specialists, people who deal with food sector, people who deal with the tea industry, right? So there are experts now in corporate banking who deal with different specialized sectors, and they manage the relationship with the sectors. Now, for instance, if a bank, the corporate banking, I know, not at NDB, where I worked for long years, we have people working, specializing in the tea sector. So they manage the relationship with the tea clients, right? Similarly, you have food sector experience, then the construction sector specialist, the power sector. So they manage the sector specialization and the relationship management, right? So they develop a knowledge, they develop an expertise while doing it, and which is very helpful in relationship management. Now, investment banking is actually much more complicated. What Vindhya is going to teach you is much more complicated. And mind you, retail investment bankers are the highest paid in the industry, right? If you are an investment banker, I think your salary will be twice or thrice as much as what you are paid as a normal banker, right? So investment banking is very highly paid because it's a very specialized knowledge. They deal as issuers of securities, underwriters. They advise the companies on mergers and acquisitions, derivatives, that is these debentures and the commercial papers. Then they provide ancillary services, right? Trading in derivatives, fixed income instruments, commodities, equity securities. So investment banks deals with other companies and government banks. So retail banks deals with retail customers, right? So they deal with more complicated deals, structured deals, right? Now say if a bank wants to raise capital, right? You want to raise capital, you go to another investment bank who has specialized knowledge. Then they will advise you whether to do a private placement or whether to go for a share issue or issue a debenture. So that is investment banking, right? What we will be learning is the little bit, the overview that is relevant in retail banking, right? But investment banking is much higher, the scope of investment banking is much, much higher. So why retail banking? What is, why? Why do we do? Why are we learning about retail banking? Why is retail banking relevant to a bank? Now, if you do a quick SWOT analysis from what I already told you, this is a, before the SWOT analysis, I will just say the advantages to the bank. What are the advantages to the bank? Now, retail deposits are stable and they constitute the core deposits of a bank, right? That is why Arapi CASA, current and savings, right? CASA, CASA, right? So, because they are stable and constitute core deposits. Then deposits are interest insensitive and less bargaining for additional interest and constitute low cost funds for banks. Now, I remember one bank, if I could remember, it was Panacea, where there was an advertisement about 1.5 to 2 years ago, where you, in the advertisement they asked, do you know how much your savings interest is paid? What is the savings interest you are getting? So most of the people do not know because people are insensitive when it comes to retail deposits, right? They're very insensitive. Not all. There are sometimes people who count each penny, but average people are insensitive and less bargaining. So it's a source of low cost funds to the bank. Then effective customer relationship management with the customer base build a strong base. Now these customers become loyal, right? If you maintain them, they become a strong base for you to cross-sell and upsell. Next one, cross-sell and upsell. So you have a ready-made base to sell, right? When you have a new product, you don't have to go and market on the outside. You have a base to sell. Then customers as brand managers. I always think a good customer is your best brand manager. Then spending on advertising or brand managers, I mean, you are getting film stars or sports personalities, I think good customers are your best brand managers, right? So it's a retail bank because especially in cultures like ours, word of mouth travels like nothing, right? So the customers, good and bad, especially the bad, right? So your customers are your brand managers. Then good source of fee and commission income, right? Then results in better yield and improved bottom line for a bank. Then consumer loans are presumed to be lower risk and from an NPA perception, as I told earlier, because of the small ticket size and the large penetration. It impacts economic revival, increase production activity. It improves lifestyle and fulfills aspirations of people through affordable credit. Because I think now people can afford to buy anything now, right? Through credit cards, personal loans. So it improves lifestyles and also fulfills aspirations of people. And also provides innovative product development opportunities. Because see, I remember now when the lockdown, came, right? So people needed laptops, students especially, right? So then there is a need for a loan or a product or a credit card scheme to give laptops at a sort of a zero interest or at a phased out payment scheme, right? So every day I see retail banking is an area where you can innovate products every day. If you ask me, I can tell you every month you can innovate a product, right? I don't know how successful it will be, but there's ample opportunities for product development, right? Then minimum marketing efforts in a demand-driven economy. Now, in a demand-driven economy, if you have a demand, you don't need marketing, right? If you like, say Uber Eats, right? Uber Eats didn't have to market itself. No? In this demand-driven economy, in situation, you don't need marketing. Like that, if you have the right product at the right time for the right people, it doesn't need marketing efforts, right? Only you have to let the market know that you have a product, but you don't have to go on and on and on if there is a market for it. Then management of asset quality through diverse portfolios. You can have different portfolio. You have your, now say personal loans, you have your professional portfolio, then you have your retired people portfolio, then you have your Ranaviru portfolios, like pensioners portfolio. Like that, you have diverse portfolios. So it's easier to manage asset quality. Then diverse opportunities for credit expansion. So if there is a, now if the government says tomorrow they are going to double the Ranaviru pensions, right? Then there is an opportunity there. So it's like, as I told earlier, there's every day happening, right? Retail banking is a happening segment in banking. So if you keep your eyes and ears open, there's diverse opportunities and diverse product innovations, right? Then what are the advantages to customer? Now deposit security, of course. ඉස්සර කාලේ අර ඇඳන් යට අංගල තිබිච්ච සල්ලි දැන් deposit security එක තමුන්ට බැංකුවකට දාන්න පුළුවන් නම් obviously තාමත් මිනිස්සු ඉන්නවා සක්විතිලට සල්ලි දෙන, right? තාමත් තියෙනවා මට ඒක හිතා ගන්න බෑ why people invest money. That is actually due to people's greed. Higher interest එකක් ගන්න නිසා කීයකට හරි ළඟ ඉන්න මිනිහෙක්ට දෙන්නේ. නමුත් deposit security. Now I'll be talking about the deposit guarantee scheme in my lecture. So deposit security, that's an advantage to the customer. It's a security for the future. Now you save today for your future consumption. Then anywhere, anytime banking. Then diversified product and service offerings, right? Tailor-made solutions. Now, unlike when we were small, we didn't have these type of solutions, right? There was 1 or 2 vanilla products. If it's a saving, it's a minor saving and another saving. Now you have so many savings products, right? With so many options, right? And so many perks, right? Tag deneva, interest වැඩියෙන් deneva, insurance covers deneva, right? So diversified products, tailor-made solutions, in speedy service, customer-specific products, right? That professionals ලාට සමහරක් වෙලාවට වෙනම products හදනවා. Doctors ලාට වෙනම products හදනවා. Right? You can say cash collection services for doctors, right? So when they do channeling, I remember one bank, they used to go, they had a special package where you have a cash collection only for doctors doing channeling. So when they collect this cash above a certain limit, goes to a fixed deposit, a shorter tenor fixed deposit. So that's a product, right? So it's a tailor-made solution, customer-specific product for doctors. Then relationship banking, the high net worth banking. Then appreciation for loyalty and relationship. Now, when it comes to Shera, she will tell you how you take these people on holidays also, right? Now you go to that extreme. You give them tea, coffee, and whatever you call snacks, and you send them cakes, flowers on their birthdays. So it's an appreciation of loyalty. That is an advantage, right? Then backs new small ventures, right? When you are say you want to start up something, till you get your act together, still you can take personal loan and have your business before you really form a company. New small ventures, it's a way of raising capital. Then better lifestyle and standard of living, right? Now our parents have to wait till they collect money to buy a refrigerator or a vehicle. Now it's a matter of just showing your payslip and going to a Singer or whatever retail shop, a Barnes or whatever, and you take home the. You don't have to fill forms and wait there. It's merely a matter of over-the-counter purchases, right? So we increase the purchasing power of people and the ability to take credit risk. Remember, your parents and their parents, people were very scared of loans, right? My parents never took loans, right? But now people thrive on credit cards and loans, right? Younger people, they thrive on credit cards and loans, right? So this increasing ability of people to take credit risk because of the options available in the market is again an advantage to the customer. The disadvantages. So if you talk of advantages, we have to talk of the disadvantages as well, right? So high risk of fraud. Now, cybercrime is one of the biggest challenges faced by most banks and consumers. Card skimming, fraudulent transactions in accounts are becoming more and more common, which leads to customers losing money and banks trying their best to compensate them. Then high risk of NPA. Like you mitigate the NPLs, also there's a disadvantage, right? In an economic downturn, like now, when disposable income becomes minimal, right? When people go out of jobs, when salary cuts are there, when people lose jobs, right? There's a risk of NPAs, right? I remember one of the banks I worked for, they have given a lot of loans to the workers of the Mattala airport at the Hambantota port. So when they were not functioning, the risk of NPA, right? So there is a risk of NPA because although it can be mitigated, there is a risk of NPA in an economic downturn when disposable income becomes minimal. Then high cost of innovation. Also, now although I told you there is a good ground for innovation in designing own and new financial products is very costly and time consuming. It is not only designing, there's a lead time. Now you design a product, you introduce a product, and then there's a time of catching up. So that you have to be very careful and patient. So most banks don't have that luxury unless you are a super performing bank with a lot of profit, right? Most of the smaller banks don't have that luxury. And it is high cost of innovation is definitely a disadvantage. Then heavy reliance on technology. Customers nowadays prefer digital banking to branch banking. The banks that are slow in introducing technology-based products are finding it difficult to retain the customers who wish to opt for net banking. So even if you can retain this generation, I don't think you can retain the next generation, right? Next generation means the people who are now getting higher salaries and who are now in the economic activity zone, right? You can retain the retired and the over 60 crowd, but not the current generation. They prefer digital banking to branch banking. They will still come to the branch, but still they want that digital banking app on their mobile and on their laptop or computer or tab, right? They want that, right? So if you don't have it, you will lose your customer. Diversified choice. Stiff competition paving way for diversified choice. Now, there is too many players, right? Now, if you say women's savings or women's loans, everybody has, like stiff competition. So diversified choice is also a disadvantage, right? Too many players, too many offerings. So the customer gets confused and it's very stiff to get to the customer. Then limitations in technology. Sometimes, although the banks invest heavily, they are not able to exploit same to the full extent. So the technology also has its own limitations, right? So limitations in technology sometimes, so they always say, okay, we will give it when you go to the next upgrade, right? So the next upgrade again is very costly. So sometimes you are limited when it comes to technology. So although the bank is willing, the system is not willing. There are a lot of instances. I mean, I think all of you have had situations like that. Then high cost of monitoring, right? Now, remember, end of the day, the telecollection and the recovery team, right? Monitoring it, recovering it, right? So those are also very high cost driven affair. So major disadvantage is that small ticket loans, අර ලක්ෂ 5 ලක්ෂ 3 loans දුන්නා වගේ නෙවෙයි. ඒවා monitor කරන්න ගියාම තමයි තරු පෙනෙන්නේ. Especially මේ වගේ economy එක. So I have done a quick SWOT analysis. We'll rush through it because if you take the strengths, right? I will quickly rush through it. Upliftment of social economic standards, what I already told you, fulfilling aspirations through affordable credit. It's a good credit risk management tool, diverse needs, diverse economic, cultural, education, social backgrounds. It's a new growth sector, ever growing, diversified asset portfolio, economies of scale, large volumes, unlimited scope for innovation, access to customer. Last one is very important because here we gain priceless data. If you have customers information, I think that is what is going to be more valuable than any jewel or any gold, right? That's priceless data. Where this customer is heading or what is his lifestyle, to understand the lifestyle, whether he is a high spender on food or whether he is a high spender on casinos, right? So your credit card sometimes gives these details. So that information is a priceless data and it is access to customer information. I call it a major strength in retail banking, right? Weaknesses, catering to diverse clients with diverse needs. හරි එක එක මිනිහට ඕනේ දේවල් වෙනස්. ඉතින් ඒ විදිහට අපිට බැංකුව හදන්නයි සිස්ටම් හදන්නයි බෑ. හරි. ඒතර ඒව තමයි weakness. Then heavy dependence on marketing. In a demand driven market economy, I told you there is no need for market, but the demand won't first. You have to create the demand, right? So there is heavy dependence on marketing. So that is why if one bank creates the demands, others can piggyback, right? So if one bank says this is a new product, then you get the other banks piggybacking because one bank spends heavily on a marketing drive, right? So heavy dependence on marketing. The reliance on technology, right? That is a weakness again. It's good and it's a weakness because you are totally dependent on technology. And what if there is a hacking? What if there is a security attack, right? Then high capital investment to manage a wide range of products and services. Then also, you know, those of you who are in retail banking, continuous coordination amongst various departments, right? So the sales have to coordinate with credit has to coordinate with admin, the admin with telecollection, the telecollection with recoveries. So it's like a chain, right? It's a chain. So you have to keep on coordinating. So if one little breakage, right, will cause a severe damage to all the parts in the coordinated chain, right? So it's continuous coordination, right? So it's a weakness. Whereas in corporate banking, you deal with the customer, you advise the customer, you close the deal, you disburse and you collect, right? So it is a different segment. Here, there are so many stakeholders, so many players. Because of that, so there is to be continuous coordination amongst various departments. Opportunities, as I told you, unlimited scope for innovation and the rising per capita income and purchasing power. Now, especially in the middle class, right? So people are getting rich. I mean, although we say that people don't have money and we see placards and everything, if you go to a shopping mall during festive season, the unlimited purchasing power, right? Then the immense opportunities in emerging economic sectors, new emerging sectors like IT, right? There's immense opportunities in the new emerging sectors, healthcare. So healthcare workers, then IT workers, right? So they are now tourism if the country bounces back, right? Those are the opportunities. So to serve those in those sectors, right? Immense opportunities. Then the threats, tendency to go for economies of scale without much scrutiny. Now this is a mistake. When we get immense number of loans, sometimes we tend to relax a little, right? So අර ගොඩාක් වැඩ තියෙද්දි චුට්ටක් රිලැක්ස් කරන ටෙන්ඩන්සි එකක් තියෙනවා, right? So economies of scale යනකොට දැන් අර ටිකට් නම්බර් එක වැඩි වෙද්දි there's a tendency to go without much scrutiny. Then issues of customer dignity, then involvement of third parties in recoveries. අර seizers ලා debt collectors ලා ගෙවල් වලට ගියාම issues of customer dignity. Infringement of customer privacy. අපි database එකක් ගත්තම අර ඉස්සෙල්ලා මම කිව්ව priceless database එකකින් සමහරක් වෙලාවට රෑ 9ටම ගෙදරට call කරනවා මට credit card එකක් ඕනේද කියලා. Right? So those are very common. Infringement of customer privacy. Some people don't know when to call because they are given a database. Sometimes from the same bank, they call you twice and thrice. Right? You already have an account. You already have a credit card. You already have a debit card. But still the banks call. Right? So customer privacy, we don't want early in the morning when you get up. Sometimes you are in a hurry to go to office. Sometimes these sales people call. And it's an infringement of customer privacy. They want 2 minutes, 3 minutes, which goes on for 15 to 20 minutes, right? Then also there's a threat of sharing personal records with external service providers. Then some service providers, they work for 2-3 banks, some finance companies, right? So we are sharing personal records. How safe? Although we have signed confidentiality agreements, NDAs, අසංකල තියෙනවා තමයි. නමුත් ඒවා පත්තු වෙනකල් එළියට එන්නේ නැහැ, right? So the threat of sharing personal records. The likelihood of technology-related fraud. Then we go to retail banking products and services. Now, this I don't think there is a need for me to repeat. There's a wide array. I have not listed everything. Customers based on their respective need, affordability and choice, right? To be repaid in longer period, සමහරක් ඒවා periodic, step up, step down, bullet, එක එක විදිහට දෙන්න පුළුවන් array of loan products, right? Banks charge interest on these loans, so and the customer benefits from the value of time created, right? So education loans, you know, we have some banks have step up loans and bullet payment loans, pay as you earn loans. So those are wide array. So you will hear from Rukshan when we come to those. Home loans, I will be taking that. Auto loans, Adit will be telling you. Mortgage loans, unsecured personal loans, are any purpose. You don't have any collateral, any purpose loans. Then revolving lines of credit, pawning, gold loans, credit cards, salary loans. එතකොට HELOCs කියන්නේ home equity lines of credit because you mortgage your house and then you have a credit line to value for the valuation of your house. You keep on drawing from time to time, right? So HELOC loans, right? HELOC lines of credit, home equity lines of credit, right? So many asset products, which some of which we will be learning in details, right? Then the liability products again, savings, minor savings, youth savings, salary savings, whatever you call it, you have it. Foreign currency, ladies, professionals. Then transaction accounts, now these are called checking accounts in US. Current accounts in UK, we call them current accounts. Then term deposits, plastic money, investment accounts, right? Then retail banking services, this is very interesting. Investment, wealth management, advisory services, online services, locker services. I don't want to repeat because we already told these things about now. Thrice I repeated this, so I'm not going to repeat this. Then in addition, there is something on margin trading. So if you are interested in, I don't think we have a session in margin trading, but you can ask Vindhya on margin trading. Then doorstep banking, right? අර ගෙවල් ගානේ ගිහිල්ලා සල්ලි එකතු කරන එක අපි දවස ගානේ ගිහිල්ලා cash collection services, payment services. So all these are commission and fee income avenues for the banks. So the cost of retail banking. Obviously, banks exist to make profits. And the most basic way, if you take the very simple way, retail banks earn money to make loans with customer deposits and charge interest on those loans. And the bank pays customers interest on their deposits, and if there is a balance, they keep it as profit. But that is not that simple. That is the very simple. දෙකේ තුනේ ළමින්ගෙන් හරි හැවුවොත් ඕක කියයි. හැබැයි ඊට වඩා ඇත්තටම retail banks වල වැඩ කරන විදිහයි how retail banks earn money is much more complex. Service fees තමයි ගොඩක් වෙලාවට bottom line එකට retail bank වල. දැන් corporate banking වගේ retail banking වල profits ගොඩක් එන්නේ bottom line එකට service fees වලින්. ඒකින්ද තමයි අපි වැඩි කාලයක් වැය කරන්නේ service fees උපයා ගන්න මාර්ග wealth management, investment banking, fees and commission services වලට මම හිතන්නේ වැඩි බරක් දීලා තියෙන්නේ ඒක නිසායි because retail banking වල සෑහෙන බරක් එනවා fees and commissions වලින්. මතක තියාගන්න specific customer fees for retail banking depends on the type of level of service and the fee category, right? Now transformation. Then මම මුලින්ම පටන් ගත්තත් කිව්වා අපි ඉන්නේ සංක්‍රාන්ති සමයක කියලා. හරි? සංක්‍රාන්ති සමයක ඉන්නකොට අපි යම් දේවල් වෙනස් වෙගෙන යනවා දැන්. මොනවද? මේ trends නෙවෙයි. මම මේ කතා කරන්නේ transformation. Then transformation part එක ගත්තොත් regulatory compliance. The heavy reliance on technology and the abundance of distribution channels have compelled the regulatory authorities to intensify the regulatory compliances. ඒ කියන්නේ දැන් අපි ටෙක්නොලොජි එකත් එක්ක බැඳෙන්න හරි ඒකෙන් වෙන්න පුළුවන් අවැඩ බලක්වන්න අපි රෙගියුලේෂන් එක. ඒ කියන්නේ නීති පැත්තෙන් අපි තද කරන්න වෙනවා. හරි කම්ප්ලයන්ස් පැත්ත තද කරන්න වෙනවා. Heavy reliance on technology and abundance of distribution channels. බැංකුවට ඇවිල්ලා බැංකුවෙන් වැඩ කටයුතු ටික කරගන්නකොට එතන විතරයි මොනිටර් කරන්න තියෙන්නේ. දැන් මොනිටර් කරන්න channels, omni channels, various channels. CDM එකේ මොකද වෙන්නේ? ATM එකේ මොකද වෙන්නේ? mobile banking වල මොකද වෙන්නේ? Internet banking. ඒක නිසා regulatory compliances also becomes very important in this transformation process. Then increased competition. Pricing is now determined by the customer. Competition amongst banks would ensure that the customer would be able to determine the price of the product or the service offered. හරි දැන් ඉස්සර වගේ මේක මේ ගානයි කිව්වම customer ගන්නේ නැහැ. හරි customer යනවා දැන් shopping. හරි loan shopping යනවා. ඉස්සර කාලේ වගේ නෙවෙයි. In then and අනිත් එක මේ information is available on the internet. You go to the website and you can check the rates payable by each bank, right? Or you can just give a call and get. Now, those days you go to a bank and you ask, and if you think the counter person was good and helpful, you may go to another bank or else you settle down there. Now the competition is much more due to the different channels and the stiff competition of banks. Then wealth accumulation versus saving. In the past, customers were happy with moderate yield, low risk and low cost savings. But now, the new generation prefers to invest to build wealth. Now, I have 2 young sons who are working. They are not interested in saving. අර 105 account එකක interest එනකොට hina වෙනවා ඒගොල්ලෝ. Right? They want to create wealth, invest to build wealth. So they are more interested in savings plan and creating wealth, right? So they are not interested in this like what we did, the minor saving, රුපියල් 500 දාලා low cost savings වලට. Then අලුත් generation එක they are shifting away from that. It's wealth accumulation versus saving. So you have to focus your mindset towards wealth accumulation. Whatever product you are going to introduce or market, it should be geared towards that and not simple vanilla saving, and you put a new name and say women saving or under 15 saving or whatever, right? Then choice of products and services. Then today's customers are highly individualistic and require customized solutions what they perceive to be unique, as well as wide range of alternative products. A customer ඕනේ දැන් අද කාලේ customer තමුන් හරි දැන් individualistic society එකක්. අර හැමෝම ගමේ එකතු වෙලා අපි හැමෝම එක ඒ society එක නෙවෙයි දැන් තියෙන්නේ. දැන් තියෙන්නේ මට ඕනේ දේ මට ඕනේ වෙලාවට මට ඕනේ විදිහට. So it is customized service how I want, when I want, and where I want. So it is the choice of products and services. So that is the transformation process we are going through. Then the advice versus service, right? Now clients, they don't want advice, right? They want advice, not just standard service, right? සාමාන්‍යයෙන් දෙන service එකට වඩා යමක් ඒගොල්ලෝ බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. So they want your bankers, they want the bankers to be advisors. That is why this course is designed, right? Because throughout my 30 plus years of banking, I have realized most of the time branch banks, right? Branch bankers, they know only one product they are doing. They have to ask the branch manager or the assistant manager or the product champion. සමහර වෙලාවට බැංකු branch එකට call කරාම ඇහෙනවා අක්කේ මෙන්න මේ product එක ගැන අහනවා. එහෙම නැත්නම් අයියේ මේ phoning ගැන අහනවා. That's very common. When you call some of our bank branches, you get that call or you just transfer. If they are more polite, they will say, please hold on, I will transfer you to the relevant person, right? But here you have to be advisors. You have to be an expert. At least you have to know little of everything. How the money market works, how the remittance business works. You can't say, අනිත් අයියගෙන් අහන්න අනිත් අක්කගෙන් අහන්න, right? Or else අක්කේ අයියේ business නැත්තම් you can't say just hold on, I will transfer you to the relevant service manager, right? You have to know the basics, at least the basics, because currently retail customers prefer information and advice than standardized service, right? කොලයක් දික් කරලා මේක පුරවන් එන්න නෙවෙයි. මේ කොටුව පිරෙව්වොත් මේක තමයි වෙන්නේ. මේ කොටුව පිරෙව්වොත් මේක තමයි වෙන්නේ, right? අර ටික් කරන ඒවා ඉන්ටර්නෙට් බැංකින් ඕනේද? මොබයිල් බැංකින් ඕනේද? කොලේ ටික් කරන්න කියනවා නෙවෙයි. කියන්න ඕනේ මේක දුන්නොත් අපි මෙච්චරක් charge කරනවා. සර් මේ opportunity එක ඔයාට තියෙනවා, right? So you have to know about mobile banking to say that. You have to know about internet banking. So that is why this course is introduced, right? At least you know little about all aspects of retail banking. Then last one, not the last one, next point is demand for high level of convenience. The shift to digital banking and abundance of distribution channels have enabled the customer demand high levels of convenience. Customer ඕනේ දැන් සැපට ඉඳගෙන බැංකු කටයුතු කරන්න. අපි ඒකේ ඇඩ්වර්ටයිස් කරන්නේ තමුන්ගේ ගෙදර තමුන්ගේ ඔෆිස් එකේ බැංකුව, right? So it is high level of convenience, not queues in front of banks, right? They demand high level of convenience. That is the transformation. Then high transaction cost, right? Now remember, this is going to be very expensive business. Setting up, once it is set up, it may be not, but setting up and managing high volume transaction is expensive. And technology is an enabler as well as a differentiator, right? Without an impeccable network of IT arrangement, it's impossible to run a retail banking unit, right? So IT, you can't say it is for the next generation or IT department, right? So it is an enabler and a differentiator. If you don't have that expertise yourself, right? That is why the last module will be on the future of banking, right? Where we are heading, right? So technology is an enabler and a differentiation. Then technological errors. With technology come technological errors. Machines are not always perfect. Even the technology keeps on modifying over the period. spending heavily on an IT system would soon become an absolute in vain. So the systems will change, right? Remember, today's system will change in 2 years or 1 year or 6 months, right? So that is the phase technology is going. Then extensive human resource requirement, right? Record keeping, management of transaction. Till it is taken over, it will be huge manpower issues. Then increasingly cautious customers. Access to information and data have equipped modern customers with knowledge and caution. Then make a hari වැදගත්. Customers are cautious, right? ඉස්සර අපි ආයි බැංකුවට ගියාමයි බලන්නේ අර සම්පත් බැංකුවේ ඇඩ්වර්ටයිස්මන්ට් එකට වගේ බැංකුවට වැරදිලාද කියලා. right? දැන් එහෙම නෙවෙයි ඉන්ටර්නෙට් එකෙන්ම බලා ගන්න පුළුවන්. And customers are cautious. මම උදාහරණයකට මට මේ මොනවා හරි ගත්තාම මට SMS එක ආවේ නැත්නම් මම බැංකුවට කෝල් කරලා අහනවා මම මෙහෙම පර්චේස් එකක් කරා. ඇයි මගේ SMS message එක ආවේ නැත්තේ කියලා. Because I'm cautious. I want to know whether the money went or the money was deducted, whether the transaction was done. So people are cautious now, unlike those days. Then uncertainty in operation conditions. Then market is very volatile, especially in this pandemic one, and impacted customer interface in retail banking. I think this is one area which is, as I repeatedly telling you, volatility in market conditions. We do not know what the future holds for. අපි දන්නේ fourth wave එකක් එයිද කියලා. අපි දන්නේ හෙට වැඩට යන්න පුළුවන් වෙයිද කියලා. හෙට බැංකු වල කොහොම restrict කරයිද කියලා. So it's very uncertainty in operating conditions. But that is going to stay. Pandemic or no pandemic, this is uncertainty in operating conditions. That is here to stay. Then gaps in the skill set. Now advancement of technology has created a gap between the existing skill set and the incumbent workforce. Then ඇත්තටම ඉන්න staff වල මේ ටෙක්නොලොජි එකට ඔරොත්තු දෙන්න. දැන් ටෙක්නොලොජි දන්න අයයි නොදන්න අයයි කියන ගැප් එක තියෙන්න බෑ ඉස්සරහට. ඒ ගැප් එක දැන් එතනට අපි කොහොමද මේ මිනිස්සුන්ව ගේන්නේ, right? So that gap in the skill set has to be done attended as soon as possible. Then shift in focus from branch-heavy interactions to product-centric organization, offering seamless digital customer experiences. එතකොට මිනිස්සු අර බැංකුවට ඇවිල්ලා බැංකුව කරනවා මේ branch එක කරනවා නැතුව product centric. හරි ඒක අපි රට පුරා කරනවා. මේ branch එකේ නෙවෙයි මේ product එක කරනවා. මෙන්න මේ customer base එක කරනවා. අපේ mindset එකත් ඒ විදිහට shift කරගන්න වෙනවා. So මේවා ඔක්කොමත් එක්ක what are the future trends? මේ part එක මම සනිකර research වලින් කරේ because I can't forecast the future. I can't predict the future. So I have been reading about this quite a lot. So this is what I feel. Now these are only my thoughts, right? As I told you, I'm sharing my thoughts, my experiences and what I have learned and what I have researched, right? So these are only thoughts about future trends, right? Customer centricity, as I told you, customer centric business model will drive retail banking in the future, right? Customer in the center. What I want, when I want, where I want, how I want, right? That's customer centricity. Then channels. Leading banks will shift from branch dominance to distribution dominance. Branch ගාන වැඩි කරන්න මම හිතන්නේ බැංකු ඉස්සරහට බලයි කියලා. හරි? ඊට වඩා distribution channel dominance තමයි. ඒ කියන්නේ කොහොමද channels වලින් distribute කරන්න කියලා. Innovation will be the key, right? Innovation දැන් ඇත්තටම මේ research එකක කරපු එක industry එකේ ඇත්තටම අපි බැලුවොත් 87% මේ research finding එක 87% of the මේ bank employees ලා කියන innovation තමයි key. Innovation is very important. But 11% කියනවා organization එක prepared තියෙන්නේ 11% විතරයි. Innovation වලට අපේ organizations ලෑස්තිද? අලුත් products අලුත් දේවල් අපිට කරන්න බැරි වෙන්න පුළුවන් ඕගොල්ලන්ගේ level එකේ. But අඩු ගානේ ඕගොල්ලෝ ඒක දන්නවද? අවයාද? එතකොට හරි ලේසි උඩින් කරන්න ඕනේ දෙයක් ඕගොල්ලන්ට prepare වෙලා තියෙනවා. නැත්තම් උඩින් roll out කරද්දී යට ලෑස්ති නැත්තම් bottom line එකේ grassroots level එකේ ඉන්න branch officers ලා branch managers ලා less නැත්තම් මොනවත් කරන්න බෑ, right? So that is why IBSL is launching this course to make you future prepared. At least you know what is happening, right? Then regulation, proactive regulation will be the top priority. Hari compliance. Hari compliance එක එතකොට regulation monitoring ඒවා ලොකු ඉඩක් ගන්නවා ඉදිරියට. So compliance and regulation, risk management, so those would be key in future. Then emergence of neobanks. What are neobanks, right? Digital only banks or neobanks are largely trending today with the accumulation of fast digital, operating entirely towards digital interface, right? You always call it new normal banks, right? So if you want to read JP Morgan Chase, they are planning out to roll out a new bank this year called Dynamo, right? Already this Dynamo has created 400 jobs. It's catering towards millennials, a millennial geared service. It's headquartered in London. It's called Dynamo. Now JP Morgan Chase is a well-known global giant, right? So they are going to roll out a neo bank this year, right? The code named Dynamo. So the emergence of neobanks is going to be a future trend. Next generation bank automation, right? Automation, again, I'm telling you, is key tool for retail banking in the coming years. Artificial intelligence, technological advancement will render better management of banking services at lower operational cost, right? Stricter data regulations, as I said, the demand for innovation, those are going to be the key trends in the future. Then robotic process automation. Now these, we think somewhere else this is happening. No. One of the, not even 3 days back, a leading software company attached to a bank in Sri Lanka was talking about the robotic process automation they are doing with some banks in Sri Lanka. So this is already there. If these are not for KYC, AML, so these are not, that's things that are happening in other countries or going to happen in another 3-4 years. It is already here. People are already doing it. I can't name the bank and the institution. It was 3 days ago, they highlighted, these are the robotic process automation things we are doing for X bank. And these are the robotic process automation we are doing for Y bank. These are Sri Lankan banks. And mind you, the company is a Sri Lankan company. It is not a foreign company, right? So it is happening and it is happening now, right? Then AI for data analytics. You all know what AI is, artificial intelligence. When Mr. Dimantha Seniviratna joins us, we can hear more about AI because there's a question and answer session. You can ask questions from him. Banks will further deploy the artificial intelligence to create a seamless customer onboarding journey. You know, NDB was the first bank to deploy AI in customer onboarding. We have already done it. One bank has, it's the first bank. So there will be many other banks doing it tomorrow, day after, right? So although I call it future trends, it is already here. These are not happening in the next generation. This is happening during our banking lifetime and it's happening today, right? But it will settle down tomorrow. That is why I call it a future trend, right? So AI for data analytics, artificial intelligence for data analytics. Then also design thinking. What is design thinking? Design thinking is I've just searched through the web. They are design thinking masters, design thinking graduate classes abroad, where they teach you how to step into the shoes of the customer, right? And you develop an empathy. Can you අපි හිතනවා customer හිතන හැටියට. දැන් උදාහරණයට දැන් මම දන්නේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ සමහරක් අය Netflix වල දැන් මම තේරුවත් live real life stories තුනක් මම තෝරලා films බලනවා කියන්න. හරි මම බලනවා මේ ඇත්ත කතන්දර තුනක් වෙච්ච. ඒ ඇත්ත කතන්දර තුන තෝරපුවම ඊළඟට මම ගිහලා Netflix එකේ movie එකක් තෝරද්දී Netflix කියනවා because you selected these 3 we are recommending තව 5ක් විතර දෙනවා. මෙන්න මේවා තමයි ඔයාට අපි recommend කරන්නේ කියලා. දැන් මම romantic film එකක් බැලුවා කිව්වොත් එකක් මම romantic film. ඉතින් ඒගොල්ලෝ recommend කරනවා. එහෙම නැත්නම් හින්දි සින්දු තියෙන dance කරන movies 3-4ක් එක දිගට බැලුවා. ඒගොල්ලෝ recommend කරනවා ඔයාට කුච් කුච් හොතා හේ බලන්න පුළුවන්. ඒවා ඊළඟට ඔයාට බලන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ වගේ හොඳ නිකන් නැගලා යන පරණ හින්දි ෆිල්ම්ස් ටිකක් ඒගොල්ලෝ දේවදාස් ඒ වගේ ඒගොල්ලෝ දානවා මෙන්න ඔයාට සිලෙක්ට් කරලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් ඒ වගේ ඩිසයින් තින්කින් method how a customer thinks how will I select my next move මම ගයක් ගන්න හදනවා නම් කොහෙද ගන්න හදන්නේ මම දැන් ඉන්නේ කොහෙද මගේ ඊළඟ job aspiration එක මොකක්ද හරි එතකොට ඒක තමයි ඉදිරියේදී තීරණය කරන්නේ user experience and customer life cycle methodology. හරි. ඒ කියන්නේ customer ගේ life cycle එක. ඒතර අපිට පුළුවන් ගානට housing loan එකක් plug කරන්න. apartment loan එකක් plug කරන්න. ඒ මිනිසයාට privilege banking මේවා එකක් plug කරන්න. Through design thinking methodology we understand how a customer thinks because it is a technological development. හරි. මෙතන අපි ඉඳගෙන ඊළඟට මෙයා මේක ගණීද අරක ගණීද කියලා හිතින්න ඕනේ නැහැ. The technology will do that part for you. Then innovation to drive economic recovery and growth. එතකොට ecosystem financing. මෙතන මම මේ highlight කරලා තියෙන්නේ. දැන් සමහරක් තැන්වල අපිට එක පැත්තක ජීවත් වෙන මිනිස්සුන්ට. හරි අපි කියමුකෝ මේ අලගොවීන්ට. අලගොවීන්ගේ වගාව මේවා වේගෙන එනකොට වගාව විකුණන්න එන කාලේ එනකොට ඒක finance කරන්න පුළුවන්. හරි එතකොට supply chain finance කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ වගේ innovations අපිට කරන්න පුළුවන්. කරන්න පුළුවන් නෙවෙයි ඒ වගේ innovations එනවා. right? ඒක credit growth and collections අපි දන්නවා මිනිස්සුන්ගේ දැන් මිරිස් ටික වවපුවම මිරිස්සල අස්සන නෙලා ගන්න කවුද? හරි. එතකොට ඒ අස්සන නෙලා ගන්න කාලෙට අපිට ඒ මිනිස්සුන්ට savings campaign එකක් යන්න පුළුවන්. අපිට ඒ මිනිස්සුන්ට minor savings campaign එකක් යන්න පුළුවන්. හරි. ඉතින් ඒ වගේ ecosystem financing solutions at point of sale to offer marketplace lending, supply chain financing and cost-based lending products to the SME partners. So these are the future trends that are happening and I read this is already happening in some place in Philippines, right? It's very successfully happening. So these are going to happen not in another 5-6 years, tomorrow. It may be tomorrow or I don't know whether it's already there in the market now. Then green future and sustainable finance. Now, sustainable finance and ESG, environmental, social and governance commitments are fast catching up, with investors and activists putting added pressure on raising questions on the assessment and management of environmental and social issues. Many banks are taking several steps forward, enhancing ESG commitments in meaningful ways. ඒ කියන්නේ green loans. හරි. ඒ වගේම green funds සමහරක් වෙලාවට දැන් මම කියවපු ඒවල තිබුණා green loans and green funds මිනිස්සු සල්ලි එකතු කරනවා environmental issues වලට social issues වලට tipping දැන් ඔය mobile apps තුලින් අපි සල්ලි එකතු කරනවා දැන් කැෂ් බෑව ආරක්ෂා කරන්න උදාහරණයක් හරි එතකොට අපේ බැංක්ස් වලින් අපි tip කරනවා අර ඒකට funds collect කරනවා social issues environmental issues ඒ වගේ එහෙම නැත්නම් මේ කැලේ කපන එකට ඒකට ෆන්ඩ් එකක් හදනවා නම් දැන් ඒ වගේ දේවල් වලට දැන් ඉන්නේ green future and sustainable financing is going to be a key word in future හරි අර අපි කිව්වා වගේ laptop loan එකයි gold financing loan එකයි ඒ වගේ අර අපි හැමදාම හිතපු තැනින් ඔබට ගිහිල්ලා green financing environmental issues මම හිතන්නේ අලුත් generation එක දැන් අපේ දරුවෝ හිතන විදිහට දැන් ඕගොල්ලන් අතරේ ඇති විවිධාකාර වයස් මට්ටමේ අය දැන් මගේ දරුවෝ දෙන්නෙක් වැඩ කරන දරුවෝ දෙන්නෙක් ඉන්නවා ඒගොල්ලෝ හිතන විදිහට ඒගොල්ලෝ හිතන්නේ අපි හිතන විදිහට නෙවෙයි ඉතින් ඒගොල්ලෝ තමයි අනාගතේ සල්ලි තියෙන කට්ටිය millennials right so ඒ millennials ලගේ අතේ තමයි දැන් එන්න සල්ලි ප්‍රමාණය වැඩි වෙන්නේ ඒකට retail banking step කරන්නේ ඒගොල්ලෝ ඉතින් ඒගොල්ලෝ හරි alert environmental issues ගැන social issues ගැන a green future and sustainable financing is very important when you innovate and develop products for the future. fintech as a service, right? FAAS platforms කියන්නේ. ඒ කියන්නේ upsurge in digital platforms for payments, lending, insurance, wealth management, technology backed banking. ඒ කියන්නේ several fintechs have now referred as service platforms. ඒ කියන්නේ fintechs, financial technology companies offer කරනවා service platforms. ඒතර බැංකුව කරන්නේ ඒක use කරලා යනවා ඊළඟ level එකට. බැංකුව ඒ අලුතෙන් හදන්නේ fintech as a service අරගෙන එතනින් ඔබට යනවා. නැතුව බැංකුව ඉස්සර වගේ ගිහිලා ඔක්කොම systems අරගෙන ඒ system upgrade කරගෙන එහෙම යන්නේ නැතුව fintech as a service. So what a fintech company do, we explore and the bank matches the products to that, right? So fintech as a service. Then advanced cloud computing. You all must have heard about cloud computing. Cloud computing technologies have become a strategic priority. That cloud computing ගොඩක් වෙලාවට process innovations වල process වල drive කරන්න අපි cloud computing පාවිච්චි කරනවා මේ and also දැන් මෙතන cloud එකේ අපිට ඕනේ වෙලාවට you can draw without having your individual platforms and individual direct active management of the users. So you can have many users over the internet using the same cloud sharing, right? So to minimize cost. And also scalable high, as I already told you, high investments in digital and technology. Hari branches හදනවට වඩා අනාගතේ technology වලට තමයි investments එන්නේ to scale the business model, right? So it is not brick and mortar versus digital, right? So there will be high investments. මේ ගඩොල් වලින් බිත්ති බැඳලා branch එකක් හදලා ළමයි දානවට වඩා initial investments may be very high and continuous because technology is something that is changing every day, right? So high investments in digital and technology to build scalable business models. Then blockchain for cyber security. Now blockchain, you must have heard. Now cyber security is a key issue, right? So there's a lot of sensitive data which is prone to hacking. So that is why blockchain technology play a key role in transforming banking sector to secure the transaction and also streamline the KYC process, right? And also ensure that the regulatory requirements are met. So blockchain again, in detail, Indika will be talking about it, but I thought it is my duty. These are just to hint you what is coming up in the future and make you ready and read about these things so that, but don't worry, I'm not going to question you on these because this is only the introduction, right? So that what drives, what are the drivers and strategic prerequisites? Now, what will drive retail banking in future? What are the drivers, right? Drivers of retail growth. Growing disposable income. මිනිසුන්ට සල්ලි තියෙනවා වියදම් කරන්න පුළුවන්. Changing consumer demography. Now ලංකාවේ ගත්තොත් 69.9 in this 15 to 64 age group. That and about 9, almost 10%, 8% in the 65 and above age group, right? So changing consumer demographics. So කාටද අපි product එක හදන්නේ? දැන් මේක තව දුරට segmentize කරලා, right? මේක හරිම වැදගත් when you drive. Now some of you are driving retail products, right? Some of you are already branch managers or in charge or helping several products, right? So when you drive a product, you have to be aware of these things. The changing customer demographics, because the country's age group, how it was, is changing with time. Then increasing literacy levels. Now here, remember, literacy level is not only read and write, right? That anyway, Sri Lanka is well ahead. This is digital literacy levels also. I think COVID pandemic, but one really good thing was it increased the computer literacy levels, the digital literacy levels of people, right? So increasing literacy levels. Then higher adaptability to technology, right? Now, even a elderly person knows how to order food, how to transfer money from one bank to another bank, how to pay a bill online, right? So that higher adaptability for technology, that you have to keep in mind. Then growing consumerism. මිනිස්සු දැන් කෑව නැතා අර ප්‍රීතියෙන් ජීවත් වෙන්න තමයි බලන්නේ. ඉතින් growing consumerism. This is a very consumeristic society today. So that I think is a huge opportunity. It's a selfish. I think I think as bankers we are a little selfish there, but it's growing consumerism is a key driver. So you can easily plug in personal loans, and because people want to be very consumeristic. I think ඒ පාරිභෝගික ජීවන රටාව ඇත්තටම අපේ පැත්තෙන් බලුවොත් හරි selfish. නමුත් ඒකෙන් අපිට බැංකුව පැත්තෙන් ලොකු opportunity එහෙම නැත්නම් drive එකක් තියෙනවා. Then fiscal incentives. ඒතකොට මේ home loans ගොඩක් රටවල් වල home loans වලට ආණ්ඩුවෙන් tax incentives එනවා. ඒවා අපි ඒවා තමයි drivers, some of the drivers. So I will always say changing mindset, willingness to borrow. Now remember your parents didn't want to borrow. හරි මිනිස්සු හරි ආඩම්බරෙන් කියන්නේ. සත්ත පහක් ණය නෑ බැංකු වලට. මේ තනියෙන් අපි මේවා මේ ගෙවල් ඇදේ. දැන් ගෙවල් හදපු මිනිහෙක්ගෙන් අහන්න බැංකු ලෝන් එකක් නැතුව. ලෝන් එකක් නැතුව ගෙවල් හදලා තියනවාද ලෝන් එකක් නැතුව. දැන් ඔය පාර යන වාහන වලින් ලීස් එකක් නැතුව දුවන වාහන කීයක් තියෙනවද කියලා. Right? So it's changing mindset, willingness to borrow, right? So these are the drivers. Desire to improve lifestyle. Now you can see the tile shops, then the bathroom fitting shops, right? And the light fittings. Now you can see now I live in Nugego. Now when I was coming now today, all the tile shops are packed, right? Even light fittings, because it's the improvement of lifestyle. Everybody is not building new houses. Even they are tiling, they are replacing. So it's improving lifestyle, air conditioning, right? So it's improvement of lifestyle. Again, banks have an opportunity, right? Are very selfishly, මිනිස්සුන්ගේ පාරිභෝගික ජීවන රටාවෙන් අපිත් අර යමක් කඩා වඩා ගන්න හදනවා. So but those are drivers. Then banks vie for higher market share. Every bank is vying for a higher market share. This is a stiff competition. So the higher market share is a key driver. Housing to continue to be the biggest growth segment, followed by auto loans. So those are the key sectors, and those are secured loans, relatively safe loans, right? So you saw now 9.9% of the credit given last year was to the housing sector, right? So housing is going to be a bigger growth segment. Now, housing is not only new housing, it is upgrades, it is renovations, refurbishments, right? And followed by auto loans. Everybody will need a vehicle, right? So auto loans is going to be a huge market. They need to expand and diversify by focusing on non-urban segment as well as varied income and demographic group. Now, rural areas offer tremendous potential too, which need to be exploited. Now, retail banks mostly concerned mostly on the urban and the semi-urban. But I think rural areas also offer tremendous potential, which needs to be exploited for retail growth, right? Now, with the expressways coming up and the country linking and the mobile usage, internet usage, and I think the country now, you all are following this lecture from throughout the island, right? So there's this opportunity. This is a tremendous opportunity for varied income and demographic growth, right? And the social media, right? Like a wildfire, right? So all those channels, all those marketing channels, distribution channels, I think those are the drivers of retail growth. And how shall we be prepared? In the strategic prerequisites, right? Now, anywhere, anytime banking is a prerequisite. So if you are a retail banker, it has to be anywhere and anytime. If not, you will be a dinosaur. You will be wiped out, right? Improved processes, bundled product offerings, right? Anywhere, anytime banking, and improved processes and bundled product offerings. අර vanilla එක product එකක් දීලා customer ඉන්නවනේ කියලා ඉන්න බෑ. මේ මගේ customer. ඒ මිනිස්යාට තව බැංකුවකින් ඔක්කොම බන්ඩල් කරලා housing loan එකයි vehicle loan එකයි credit card එකයි minor saving එකයි බන්ඩල් කරලා දෙනවා නම් අනිවාර්යෙන්ම එයාට ඒක වාසි නම් convenient නම් අනිවාර්යෙන්ම මේ customer යනවා. So මේ prerequisite ඒ කියන්නේ අපි සූදානම් වෙලා ඉන්න ඕනේ දේවල්. Anywhere, anytime banking, improved processes, bundled product offerings, and faster service. Reduce turnaround times. Tax can turnaround times. So, faster service. Anytime. Reduce tax. Are isara wage loan එක අරගෙන කොලේ පුරවලා දවස් 4ක් ඉන්නේ දැන් customers ලා. Customer ඉන්නකොට over the counter බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. Over the counter. Reduce tax, right? Faster service. Then customer specific products. Customer specified product offerings on a regular basis. Hari customer ට අපි offer කරන දේවල් ඒවා regularly අපි renew කරන්න ඕනේ. Customer specific products. Need එක identify මම repeatedly කිව්වා වගේ customer ගේ need එක මොකද්ද? අපිට එක එක්කෙනාට හදන්න බෑ. නමුත් අපිට customers ලගේ need of තව අඳුර ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒක හැම අපි වෙනස් වෙන්න ඕනේ. මිසක් මෙන්න product එක ඕන්නම් ගන්න කියන කාලේ ගියා. Bank customer has replaced branch customer. Then branch centric නේ. මගේ branch. දැන් මම දන්නවා ඉස්සර මම branches බලද්දි මගේ branch එකේ customer අල්ලපු branch එකේ deposit එක දැම්මයි කියලා branch managers ලා දෙන්නගේ ආරවුල් වලට මැදිහත් වෙන්න වෙනවා මට. හරි? මෙයා කොහොමද මගේ branch customer අරයාගෙන් ගත්තේ? එයාට ලොකු deposit එක ගියේ කොහොමද? මෙයාව ගෙනාවේ මම. ওই වගේ ආරවුල් මම අනන්ත විසඳලා තියෙනවා. right? බැංකු දෙකේම මම වැඩ කරලා දින බැංකු දෙකේම ওই ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා. හරි මගේ branch එකේ customer. නමුත් very soon there's no branch customer. They are bank customers, right? Because that line of branch, that physical branch is soon going to disappear. Then focus on, so you have to focus on bank customers, not branch customers, right? Focus on understanding the customer need and preferences. Customer ට මොනවද ඕනේ කියන එක අනිවාර්යෙන්ම focus වෙන්න ඕනේ. customer ට ඕනේ දේ customer preferences දන්නේ නැතුව යනවා කියන්නේ අනිවාර්යෙන්ම අඳුරේ අතපත ගෑමක්. ඒක හරියන්නේ නැහැ. රිටේල් බැංකින් නම් කස්ටමර් අර මම හැමතිස්සෙම කියනවා වගේ රිටේල් බැංකින් කරනවා නම් බ්‍රාන්ච් බැංකින් කරනවා නම් පොළවේ පය ගහලා ඉන්න ඕනේ. හෙඩ් ඔෆිස් එකේ හරි නැත්නම් බ්‍රාන්ච් එකේ ලස්සන කාමරේ ඉඳගෙන මල් පෝච්චියක් තියාගෙන රිටේල් බැංකින් කරන්න බෑ. You have to have a grip of the customer. Customer ගේ need, customer ගේ preference. Customer අකමැති දේ මොකක්ද? උතුරේ customer කැමති දේ දකුණේ customer අකමැති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. හරි customers need. Focus on understanding customers needs and preferences. එහෙම නැත්නම් you will be wiped out. Process efficiency, right? And ease of scalability. හරි දැන් මේ මොනවද මේ strategic prerequisites කියලා මම කියන්නේ? මේ තමයි පෙර සූදානම්. අනිවාර්යෙන්ම පෙර සූදානම් කරන්න ඕගොල්ලන්ව. හරි? Process efficiency and ease of scalability. Process එක efficient වෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒ වගේම scale කරන්න. කියන්නේ දැන් අද 1000කට ආවොත් හෙට 1500ක් ආවොත් කොහොමද කරන්නේ? අපි හදලා තියෙන්නේ 1000කට කියන්න බෑ. Ease of scalability. අපි හදන systems 1000කට හදනවා නම් 2000කට යන්න ලේසියෙන් පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕනේ. එහෙම නැත්නම් system issues කියලා එතන නවතින්න බෑ. එහෙමනම් customer යනවා වෙන බැංකුවකට. Right? Superior credit policy, procedures and skills. This is very, very important. Skill එක sales වල තිබුණාට වැඩක් නෑ. credit policy එක ගිය 7 වර්ෂේ නම් credit procedures ගිය 7 වර්ෂේ නම් ඉන්න බලන මිනිස්සු ගිය 7 වර්ෂේ විදියට නම් credit බලන්නේ තාම right මේ කතා කරන දේවල් වැඩක් නැහැ. ඔයගොල්ලෝ මේ post එක කරලා තදන්නේ. right credit policy එක තියෙන්න ඕනේ අර කැත්තට පොල්ල වගේ නෙවෙයි මොකක් වගේද? කැත්තට පොල්ල වගේ නෙවෙයි. දැන් තමයි ලේලි වගේ credit උයි sales උයි හැප්පෙන්න බෑ. හරි මෙයා යන් කියද්දි අරයා දුවමු කියන්නේ ඉන්න ඕනේ. හරි sales යන් කියද්දි credit එක දුවන්න ලෑස්ති වෙලා ඉන්න ඕනේ. credit policy එක තියෙන්න ඕනේ. procedures තියෙන්න ඕනේ. skill set එක තියෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒව නැත්තම් retail banking කරන්න බෑ. කරන්න පුළුවන් but grow වෙන්නේ නැහැ. right මම මේ කියන්නේ මගේ experience එකෙන් බැංකු දෙකක එක බැංකුවක මම retail credit head හැටියට වැඩ කරපු බැංකුව අනිත් එකේ branches බැලුවා. ඉතින් මම දෙපැත්තෙම දන්නවා හරි credit policy එකක් නැති වුණාම ඇති වෙන තත්ත්වය. හරි sales යන් කියද්දි අපි දුවමු කියන්නේ ඉන්න ඕනේ credit එක. නැත්තම් ඒ තත්ත්වෙට ගේන්න. NPA reduction fraud prevention NPA බලන්න හරියට ලෑස්ති වෙලා තියෙන්න ඕනේ. ඕගොල්ලන්ගේ ටෙලි collection එකයි recoveries එකයි retail loans වලට gear up වෙලා තියෙන්න. ඒවා machine එක වගේ දුවන්න ඕනේ. ඒ systems skill sets තියෙන්න ඕනේ. ළමයි ඉන්න ඕනේ. මේ අතින් letter of demand ගහා අරින්න බෑ. ඒවා ඔක්කොම auto generate වෙන්න ඕනේ. fraud prevention mechanisms හරියට තියෙන්න ඕනේ. audit risk හරියට තියෙන්න ඕනේ. නැත්තම් ඕක කරන්න බෑ. අර ඉස්සෙල්ලා කිව්ව drivers future trends ඔක්කොම නිකන් හරි ගඟට කපපු ගිනි වගේ වෙනවා. ඊළඟ එක avoiding death trap for customers. දැන් මෙතන තමයි බැංකු informal sector කියන්නේ micro finance අයගෙන් වෙනස් වෙන එක මේජර් තැනක්. අපි කවදාවත් death trap එකක කස්ටමර්ව දාන්න එපා. කස්ටමර්ව දැනුවත් හෝ නොදැනුවත්ව death trap එකට දාන්න එපා. And also bringing rural masses to mainstream banking. ගමේ මිනිසුත් හිතන්න retail banking වලට හොඳ source එකක් කියලා. Right? Don't ever think and concentrate on urban and suburban economies. Also bring rural masses into mainstream banking. Reaching out to masses need to customize. මෙතනදි මතක තියාගන්න කොළඹට කිරිගමට කැකිරි නෙවෙයි. නමුත් අපිට products tweak කරන්න වෙනවා, customize කරන්න වෙනවා සමහරක් වෙලාවට ප්‍රදේශයේ හැටියට ඒ customer ගේ need එක නැත්තම් වැඩක් නැහැ. So when you reach out to masses මතක තියාගන්න products need to be customized. Then customer segmentation and differentiation. Customers ලව segmentize කරන්න වයස අනුව, ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ economic background එක අනුව, එතකොට ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ affordability අනුව, ඒගොල්ලන් අපිත් බැංකුවත් එක්ක තියෙන relationship කාලය අනුව. So those are areas we have to be ready, right? The differentiation of customers and segmentation. Then segmentation and differentiation of customers, I already told you. Customer-driven strategies. Don't plan strategies for the bank. What you want. Not manager-driven strategies or CEO or head of sales-driven strategies. They will never work in the future. They will never work. Right? Even now they are not working. If I look back and analyze, sometimes some of the products that I have been party to launch, some of the products that we have, I was instrumental in launching, some have not caught up, right? They were failed products. Everything didn't get caught up, right? Some products get successful, some products don't, right? So when you analyze, look back and analyze, මොකද මේ product එක ගියේ නැත්තේ? කොතනද මට හරි අපිට වැරදුනේ? ඇයි මේ product එක කොහෙද මේකේ තියෙන අඩුපාඩුව? 80%ක්ම customer driven strategy එක නැති වෙලාවට තමයි ගොඩක් වෙලාවට customer refuse කරන්නේ. So you have to know your customer and you have to do customer driven strategy. අර know your customer කියලා KYC form එකේ පුරවන දේවල් වලින් ගොඩාක් දේවල් අපිට ඉගෙන ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒක කොලයක් විතරක් නෙවෙයි. හරි? ඒ කතා කරන ටික වෙලාවේ ඒ කොලේනුයි අපි ගොඩාක් දේවල් ඉගෙන ගන්නවා. So when you have a customer interface, always learn and pass that information. ඒක ඕගොල්ලෝ තියන් ඉන්න එපා. අලුතෙන් product එකක් හදද්දී හැමතිස්සෙම customer driven strategy එකට යන්න නැත්නම් a product එක fail, a service එක fail, right? So as I started this, I said customer centric. Now I'm telling you, if you don't have customer driven strategies, you will never ever succeed, right? Then building relationship. It is individuals, right? As I always say, all your customers. Loan එක ගෙව්වේ නැතුවම නෙවෙයි. ගොඩක් වෙලාවට අපි customers ලට call කරන්නේ loan එක ගෙව්වේ නැති වුණාම ඒකත් relationship. එහෙම නෙවෙයි. customer හොඳ අනිත් එක ලොකු customers ලට විතරක් නෙවෙයි. හැම customers පොඩි දෙයක් SMS message එකක් අවුරුද්දට. හරි. පොඩි ආරාධනා පත්‍රයක් ආවනාව. හරි. අපි දැන් මේ ෆෝන් එකෙන් අරින්න පුළුවන්. ඉතින් ඒ වගේ චූටි දේවල්. customer කෙනෙක්ගේ මරණයකට යන එක, පිරිතකට යන එක. හරි. ඒ relationship කියන එක හරිම වැදගත් මෙන්න මේ retail banking වල. Then performance oriented leadership, right? Leadership should not be only strategy oriented. Mostly where retail banking fails, especially retail banking, right? Retail banking wala inna leader strategy oriented නම් retail banking එක දුවන්නේ නැහැ. එයා පොතේ ගුරෙක් නම් හරිම අමාරුයි කරන්න. Retail banking කියන්නේ hands on happening banking. හරි? අර හැමදාම යමක් වෙන. It's a happening lively banking, right? So it has the leadership has to be performance oriented. පට ගාලා දුවන leadership එකක් ඕනේ performance oriented. හරි? ඔයි ගෑනුද පිරිමිද වයසද නැද්ද, it is your attitude and outlook. It is the performance oriented, right? අර හැමදේම urgent වෙන්න ඕනේ, right? The sense of urgency එක අර අපි කියන්නේ අර ඇතුලේ ඇඟේ තියෙන්න ඕනේ. නැත්තම් performance කියන එක දැන් ඔයගොල්ලෝ දැකලා තියෙන සමහර leadersලා performance oriented leadersලා දැකලා තියෙනවා, strategy oriented leadersලා දැකලා තියෙනවා. දැන් ඔයගොල්ලෝ දැන් මට නැති නිසා උදාහරණයක් දෙන්නකෝ. කවුද ප්‍රේමදාස ඇවිල්ලා performance oriented leader. Garment factory 200 කිව්වා 200 හැදුවා. That's a performance oriented leadership, right? So that sort of leadership you need in retail banking, especially in retail banking. If you don't have that leadership, you can't do that, right? Then sophisticated marketing and sales. අර පත්තරේ දාන advertisement එක ඉස්සරහට හරියන්නේ නැහැ. හරි? You have to make it more sophisticated. Marketing and sales channels have to be more sophisticated and like more focused, right? අර සාමාන්‍යයෙන් දාන විදිහට හරියන්නේ. Efficient distribution channels. We spoke about distribution channels and they have to be efficient. Other දැන් අර මට මතකයි lockdown එකේ අර එක පොඩි දවසක් නිවාඩුවක් හම් වෙච්ච වෙලාවක ATM එකකට ගියාම ATM එක ක්‍රියාවිරහිතයි කියලා දාලා තිබුණම ඇති වෙන ඒ කියන්නේ අර වීදුරුවට ගල් ගහන්න හිතෙනවනේ නැද්ද? So that is efficient distribution channels. Those should be very efficient, right? ඒ වගේ හැම distribution channel, not only people, all your distribution channels have to be very efficient. Then data mining and credit risk management based campaigns. Data mining කියන්නේ අර අපි ගන්න data clients ලගේ හැසිරීම, clients ලගේ දැන් උදාහරණයක් හැටියට පැන්ඩමික් එකේ කවුද දිගටම ගෙවාගෙන ගිය clients ලා. හරි, ඒ වගේ data storage, regular ගෙවන්නේ කවදද? දවසක් පරක් වෙලා ගෙවන්නේ කවදද? ඒ වගේ data තියෙන එක data mining. හරි, ඒක හරීම ඒ data mining technology should be there in your retail banking department or whatever, that data mining and credit risk management based campaigns, right? Because අපි බලන්න පුළුවන් එතකොට clients ලගේ හැසිරීම රටාවල්. හරි, ඒ හැසිරීම රටාවල් මත අපිට අලුත් දේවල් කරන්න පුළුවන් බය නැතුව. Then products per customer and loyalty. මම ආයේ කියනවා customer loyalty, customer centricness is very important. Then promoting low risk retail lending product. Hari, තියෙන ඔක්කොම risk ටික අරගෙන products දෙන්න එපා. As I started earlier, customer is the king, but the bank pays your salary. So promoting low risk retail lending products. Offer an array of products and financial advisory. මතක තියාගන්න මිනිහෙක්ට choices ගොඩක් දුන්නොත් ඒ මිනිස්සයා එකක් හරි තෝරගන්නවා. මට තියෙන්නේ 105 savings එක විතරයි කිව්වොත් එච්චරයි. මට තියෙනවා 104ට යන හැබැයි තෑගි දෙන savings එකක්. මට තියෙනවා 106ට යන හැබැයි ඒ කියන්නේ මේ විදිහටයි. මට තියෙනවා 107කට යන එක. ඒ කියන්නේ මේ විදිහටයි. Financial advisory කෑල්ලත් එක්ක you have to offer an array of products. ඒ කියන්නේ එක product එකක් නෙවෙයි. So you for the future customers, they are not going to be happy with one vanilla product. At least if you have one vanilla product, you have to put different toppings. එකක් chocolate, එකක් strawberry වගේ එක පොඩි වෙනස්කම් කරලවත් offer කරන්න ඕනේ. අනිත් එකත් එක්ක ඕගලගේ පැත්තෙන් advisory එකක් කරන්න ඕනේ. Then cost effective expansion, right? Renewed emphasis on superior execution by front end employees. Ultimately, it's the front end employees who take the word to the market, right? Grow through alliances, hospitality, education, retailers, automobiles, consumer, like alliances. එකකිනත් එක්ක tie up වෙලා, හරි? Hospitality introduce. Tie ups with these institutions or these sectors, and you promote alliances. Then හැමතිස්සෙම customer කැමති තවත් එක්කෙනෙක් එක්ක එකතු වෙලා යන offers. දැන් ඔය ගොඩක් credit cards වලට අපි එහෙම කරන්නේ. ඒ වගේ alliances. හරි? That is one way of going forward. So I think we are having Mr. Dimantha Seneviratna. Has he joined? No. Okay. Then conclusion. I will just conclude. I have 2 more slides. Not yet, no? I have 2 more slides. I'll quickly conclude. Just a second. Understanding retail banking will help servicing your customer better. Now, that is the objective of this course also. So it will give you perspective and insight as to how each product is structured and how you can fulfill the requirements of the customer. Now, very soon, with the advent of ATMs, we had anytime banking. With satellites and telecom networks, we have anywhere banking. Now, it is turn of anyhow banking. So, the 3 A's and the leading bank of the next century will be the one which has all 3 A's. So, anyhow banking, as I told you, what I want, when I want, and how I want. So, that is going to be the mantra of retail banking. And so the winning strategy for the future of retail banking is for the customer. The bank that best addresses and anticipates customers' needs, delivers consistently higher quality service, and connects to the customer via their channel of choice, not our channel of choice. Their channel of choice will definitely win. So with that, I will conclude my session. We have Mr. Dimantha Seneviratna joining us shortly. Yeah. Until Mr. Dimantha Seneviratna logs in, I will just do a short introduction why we selected him and a little bit about him. So NDB, as you know, has been chosen as Sri Lanka's best bank by Global Finance Magazine USA and Bank of the Year by the Banker Magazine USA. And also it has been rated as the best domestic bank of the year by the Asian Banking and Finance Magazine for many consecutive years. And above all, it has been chosen as the best digital bank in Sri Lanka in 2021 at the Asia Money Awards. So it's the first Sri Lankan bank to roll out the AI-based KYC technology to open accounts, right? So that is the background why we selected the CEO of NDB Bank to be the guest speaker at this session. So Mr. Dimant Seneviratne will be joining in any moment. Yes. Good afternoon. And before you start the session, sir, I just did a brief introduction as to why we selected NDB Bank CEO to be our guest today. And we have, in fact, we have 66 participants on board. We have 60 participants for this diploma course registered. And I will just give us, I don't think he needs any introduction, but formality's sake, I will just introduce Mr. Seneviratne, who is currently the Group CEO and Director of NDB Bank PLC, who counts over 26 years of experience in the banking industry. So prior to joining NDB, he functioned as a Director CEO at Pan Asia Bank and also spent over 15 years with HSBC Group. Mr. Seneviratne also holds an MBA from the Postgraduate Institute of Management, University of Sri Jayawardenepura, and BSc from the same university. He's a fellow member of the IBSL and a postgraduate diploma holder in computer system design from NIBL. I also should say that, I mean, there's a huge list of things to his credit, but I will just end it because of the time limitations. Currently, he also functions as a director of Lanka Kriya Private Limited and director of the Credit Information Bureau. So I also would like to refresh that NDB was the first bank to roll out the AI-based KYC technology, as I already told you, to open the account. So over to you, Mr. Seneviratne. There's 60 participants and 8 faculty members waiting to hear you.
Okay. So thank you very much, Delrin, for that introduction. And first of all, I must thank the Institute of Bankers Sri Lanka for inviting me, and also Delrin and the fellow faculty members for selecting a very appropriate theme, a diploma in retail banking. And I must congratulate the Institute for selecting an appropriate theme, because retail banking is not the topic that was talked that much in the banking circles for some time. You may have courses for corporate banking, the SME banking, but retail banking, very little. So first of all, I must congratulate the Institute for selecting a very appropriate topic, which is a current topic and which is actually a backbone of the economy. So retail banking is basically getting the customers, the granular customers, to the banking. And if you really analyze what is banking, what banking does is basically the economic function of meeting the needs of customers who want to grow economically through lending activities, but to resource them through another set of customers. Sometimes there's an overlay of these who would like to have their deposits secured and have certain interest element paid for their savings. So it's a dual function that the banks are doing, and that's where the retail banking basically contributes the most. Darren, my understanding is that we have about 30 minutes. So what I thought was probably take about 15 minutes to talk about the retail bank and probably a new trends in retail banking, and leave room for the participants to raise whatever questions if they have in the balance 10 to 15 minutes. So this is the important function that the retail banking is doing. And that's where the banks have, over the years, it's the retail customers who are basically supported the backbone of the banking system through the deposits. And that's where the granular deposits have come to this granular level of customer. So that's why traditionally banks have gone for branch expansion to reach this customer base and get more and more customers to come and save with them. More and more customers to come and invest through fixed deposit, savings, your granular current and savings accounts, all that to encourage so that they will have the benefit of these customers having their hard-earned funds with the bank, where there's interest rate that is paid. And those are the funds basically have funded all the other business elements of the bank. So it's not only the retail element, but even for corporate banking, project finance, SME banking, you need the resources, which is the deposits. And how you resource deposits is through the granular retail base. But if you look at some other banks who are more focused on probably on the corporate side. So if you take most of the foreign banks operating here, they may have 1 or 2 branches which are sufficient to raise certain level of deposits, but the balance is funded through the borrowings. But if you look at the overall banking system, typically banks, this is measured through the advance to deposit ratio. Typically in Sri Lanka right now, the advance deposit ratio is around 85 to 90%. So which means for each 100 rupees that you lend, you have about 120 rupees deposits to support that. And that is very important to have a very strong banking system. The banking system is based on the understanding, the respect, and also the security that a banking system provides. And for that, the banks should have adequate liquidity to support that in an eventuality. So that's where we have liquidity ratios and all to ensure that banks have sufficient funds. So I'm bit of going to describe the importance of retail banking for this continuation of the banking, because without retail, we don't have any banking to basically talk about. Because for any, so now we have a lot of tech companies coming into the financial service sectors, but even for tech companies, you need funds. You need to have access to deposits. So even if you look at the tech companies who are advanced here, even in Sri Lanka, who are coming up with apps and all, some way of trying to get the deposit. So some have gone to the level of going for acquiring a non-bank financial institute, a finance company, so that way you attract the deposit. Otherwise, it's very difficult without the funding. So that is where in banking, the funding coming through the retail network is important. And even this has been respected in the Basel agreement, where even when it comes to the risk-weighted assets, the retail assets have been given a better risk-weighted assets because of the granular nature that the retail banking provides. The risk is spread and there are a lot of granular level customers. So that is also encouraged in the Basel III as well. So this is, I thought it's a bit of a quick introduction why retail is important, where all of you are getting into a diploma course in retail banking. So I think for us, it's important that the importance of retail banking is understood in the first day itself, so that you can apply. The future of the retail banking is tremendous. I mean, that's where the market is also going, because retail is all you and I, and also even in corporate, the decision makers are individually their customers, even in a corporate banking, corporate world, even at a director level or a CFO level or those who are funding, all are individual people and they need service and they need retail banking service. So that's why the banks have gone into a level of segmenting these clients and coming up with various levels of service to provide them the service. Because Even in Sri Lanka, we're talking about 30 odd banks. And why would a customer select a particular bank? But the key things that they look at is, one is the stability. Other than that, the most importantly, the rates and the interest rates and the flexibility that it provides. And then the third one is the customer service. So now this is where we all are competing for a set of agile retail bankers, and the service matters. So this is again in the future of the retail banking. That's again where the digital banking is going to take a significant role here. Now, even in Sri Lanka, we are talking about internet users, more than 17 million internet users out of a 21 million population. Mobile users, more than 31 million mobile users. Social network, social media users, more than 8 million. Last year alone, during the COVID time, we had seen 1.5 million new social media users coming in. So that's a growing industry, growing area where all the retail customers are now moving towards the digital space. And again, the banks have to take a key role here to take advantage of that and allow customers to make use of the banking services without coming to a branch. And that is the future. I'm sure most of you are in your young ages. The new millennials and the new age, they are all not used to reading even a paper. Right? They are all e-paper. And the gone are the days there you come to a bank, you take a token, wait for your turn, and then coming to bank is like about 1 to 2 hours you spend there, right? So, but that's all gone. Now people want that service within a few seconds, and that's where the digital is also going to take a key place. So retail banking over the years have evolved, and if you look at the course that you're studying, I went through the course outline, very relevant. I think it's mainly covering the retail, the importance of that, and also that's touching on the future of the retail banking. So future rests in the digital sphere. Yes, traditional deposits, advances, the deposit products will play the key role, that will continue. But the services, the transactional banking services, all that through the digital means are going to play a key role. So that's where we as a bank now, NDB, also have paid a lot of attention. If I may share a little bit, as Darren mentioned, we have taken quite a big lead in developing. One is the mobile app, which is basically not only access to the accounts or the internet banking, all within one app. But more importantly, how can we onboard customers using the technology without them coming to the physical presence of the branch? Now, Central Bank basically gave the green light only in last quarter of 2020, last year, for onboarding customers through the digital means verification. And we are the first to basically move to that step by looking at the customers' features, interlinked with the National Registration of People Ministry, and also the database, and also recognizing to the data. I mean, so that would clearly keep a step ahead, because then without coming to a bank, a customer can open an account. Why these are important? Because ultimately it all boils down to the time. Everybody respects their time, and now in this world, the time basically dictates what you do, because it's all measured through rupees and cents. So in that situation, rather than coming to a branch all the way and spending your time, and that's where the digital comes into a major role. So I think the future of this retail banking rests mostly on the digital sphere. And that's where the tech companies have come up as well. And there are models where some banks have moved on to a joint agreement, joint arrangement with the tech companies to provide these services. Some have gone up with developing their own systems. But somehow, ultimately, to provide the customer-centric solutions based on the needs of the customer. So that's important. The other one I spoke of was the segmentation. Again, segmenting the clients, segment the retail customers based on one can be the deposit base, the overall exposure that they have with the bank, not only the individual customer, maybe the spouse, their children, all together as a family, the exposure that you have, and through that you create a value for that client, and then you measure the level of service that you provide to that client. Those would go a long way. And a privileged kind of a customer would naturally like to be recognized whenever he stepped into any branch of that bank. He may be a customer of a Colombo branch, but when he steps into a Kandy branch, to be recognized. So that's where he can be recognized through a card, where through a system you can recognize the moment a customer steps into the branch that here is a privileged client. So these kind of things would add value to what we give, because ultimately that value leads to more loyalty toward the bank and more transactions through that particular bank, and as a result more deposits in the way of low-cost deposits. And we all are catering to trying to get low-cost deposit, the current and savings account, the CASA, more granular CASA, and the retail banking plays a major role in that situation. I think given the limited time, I would stop here in terms of talking about the retail banking. Future trends, of course, is the digital side. Now, even at NDB, we have developed, now you would have seen that even the CRIB, Credit Information Bureau, has also come up with a credit score based on the performance of the customer over the past couple of years. And that is a fairly accurate way of measuring a customer's credibility. And again, NDB has taken the first step to interlink with the credit information systems data, and using the credit score, even without customer moving into a branch, the ability to grant a personal loan based on a credit score. So before that, again, you need to ensure that your bank's internal credit assessment system interact with the Credit Information Bureau system, and you have to have their scorecard based on that. But more importantly, again, the convenience factor that we are trying to bring in to this retail base, because even in future, retail customers, whether we like it or not, all are individuals, would like to get treated in a major way when you are banking, because banking is no longer, it's a necessity. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity. So, but all the banks are competing for this affluent and the retail customers. So not only limited to affluent customers, all the customers, so that the segmentation may be one way of attracting all these 3-4 layers, where you can't be banker to only one segment. Because in future, in a more competitive world, you need to have all these segments, the up market, the middle market, and also the granular lower level market, where you have the granularity. So for that, the banks have to have different strategies to different segments to attract these clients and serve them, because through the service only you can keep them, and with those funds only we can lend to all the other business units. Even any bank, the retail banking basically provide the more stronger CASA base, more stronger deposit base, so you can use that to fund the other lending areas, the project finance, corporate banking, SME, all are funded through this retail base. So that's why the banks have invested in branch network, staff, all that, and even in training. Even these kind of courses are all divides to ensure that how you basically get the best out of to serve these clients and provide the best service. So with this, probably Delrin, I'll leave the forum open for some questions if the participants can take raise their questions.
Yes, I think you can raise your questions with Mr. Diman Seniviratna. I think it's a very valuable opportunity. So please go ahead. Introduce yourself before you raise the question, please. You can ask the questions in any language. Although the medium of instruction is English, I lectured in Singlish, right? So you are free to ask, because I know Mr. Diman Seniviratna is very fluent in both languages. So you can ask.
Yes,
in any
please
language.
go ahead and ask, because I would also like to have this as a very interactive kind of session rather than only one way. So please feel.
ප්‍රශ්න නැද්ද නැත්තම්?
How long is the course duration? Sorry, there's one. Go ahead, please.
Yeah.
Please. Sir, I'm Suresh Fernando. I represent SDB Bank. Actually, my question is, actually there are around 32 banks in Sri Lanka. 26 are SCBs, and there are another 6 licensed specialized bank. So I am working for a development bank. How far does this concept of retail banking applies for these type of banks? Because I think NDB is also converted from a licensed specialized bank to licensed commercial banks. So how far this concept retail banking applies for the other bank categories?
Yeah, so okay. Thank you, Suresh, for that question. Actually, even you're talking about NDB's situation, NDB started as a development bank. So NDB 40 years now, but initially both NDB and DFCC are all started as the development banks to provide a service. And when in mid 2000, when Sri Lanka got upgraded to middle income status, the low cost funding that the banks, development banks used to get, we didn't have. So that was the reason for both NDB, DFCC to convert to commercial banking. And so the banks took different approaches. So in DFC's case, I think they amalgamate with Vardhana to have more granular corporate, but Vardhana was a smaller bank. In NDB's case, NDB also acquired ABN AMRO branches here in Sri Lanka. But thereafter, they went on a very rapid branch expansion plan. So for any bank, now this is where the key retail segment comes in. Otherwise, you don't have funding to cater to these commercial banking requirements. Now, NDB is a good example. NDB had only the ADB funds or IFC funds or all the foreign multilateral agencies, long-term funds to lend to these projects. And they were also lending to the SME side, but all the funding came from these borrowings. So NDB is actually, if you look at commercial banking history of NDB, it's less than 16 years. Only in 2004, it got converted to a commercial banking. And then the branch expansion, or if you look at, now NDB have 113 branches, more than 100 branches are all less than 10 to 12 years. And Darren was ex-NDP, so she should know. She was in the retail bank as well. I think most of these branches came up recently. So even for SPB or for all these branch banks, 30 odd banks, now retail plays a key role, and that's where the branch network matters. And if you look at, there is a good relationship with the branch network and your funding base as well. The larger banks like Bank of Ceylon, People's Bank, there are more than 400 branches. Or the private commercial banks like Commercial Bank, Sampath Bank, HNB, there are more than 250 branches. Now next come the mid-sized banks like NDB and all, where you have about 150, average between 100 to 150. So larger branch network, if you see there is a link in the past between your CASA ratio. So you need larger your base, your CASA is current and savings accounts, as a percentage of your total deposits. So now the Sri Lanka's average CASA ratio is around 32%. And these are low cost funds. So larger branch network, you have your better CASA ratio, so you can offer low cost funding. But now that was a history, Suresh and others. But I think going forward, branch networks may not play that key role, because that's why I was talking about the digital means. Customers can basically use that services through the digital banking. Through a digital bank, there's no need for them to physically come to a bank. So for those who are studying, I think it's important to know the future trends, because if you look at earlier 4 or 5 years back, you would have seen papers, if you open branches opening their new branches or relocation. Now only you see only relocation, but earlier there are new branches. There were times that some banks used to open 5 branches a day. So the rapid expansion, now all that with the digital entry have stopped, and the future is digital. So I think that's where using the digital means how you tap these clients. So even STB or all the other banks, most likely, I mean, say in 10 years time, I would say that there may be a question whether we need this much of branches. Branches can now convert them to customer kiosk kind of thing, where customers can come and plug and play, have a coffee or something, and then use that atmosphere for social networking, and rather than coming for a transaction. And that is the future in 10 years time. And it's not that far away even in Sri Lanka. So thank you for that question.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else?
Hi, myself also have a question. I'm Vihanga Fernando and I'm from HSBC. So as you told that the future is in the digital era, right? So with coming to the digital era, will the physical banking facilities be demised?
Yeah, so to a level, Vihanga, yes, to a certain level, but still the research has shown that still the customers would like to have the personal touch. So you may need physical presence to a certain level, but to serve a bulk of the clients. Now this is where again the segmentation that I spoke of comes into play. Now if you look at, this is where HSBC is good at. I mean, that's where I also worked for 17 years, mostly concentrating on the retail segment. But that is again upmarket retail segment through the premier banking. So that you can still have nice premier centers and customer interactions coming through. But this is only probably 1% of the market. But the balance 99% are bigger scale, larger retail customers. So for that, one is you need to approach them, you need to attract them. But through the digital means is certainly the way, cost-effective way would be the digital means. But still, there will be certain personal interactions, because the research has shown that only digital may not really work. You need to have some personal touch. I think that again, HSBC is an example, a good example. About 8-10 years back, HSBC tried to discourage customers coming to the branches because each transaction there's a cost element. Having tellers, all the resources, all the ACs, all that security, all that arrangement. If you look at the total cost, if you divide by number of transactions per month, you can come up with a cost per transaction. And then they saw there's quite a significant cost in customer coming into a branch. So what some of these banks did was they increased the fee for transactions below 100,000. You are encouraged to go and use the ATM. If you come to a counter, you'll be charged. But that actually backfired because customers still need personal touch as well. So you have to have a fine balance as well, rather than implementing this throughout, straight away. You need to have a fine balance and implement this. Hope I answered your question.
Yeah, thank you for that.
More questions from the participants? Why are the ladies silent?
Mr. Siniviratna, I'm Nilupama from STV Bank again. So now with this digital banking and all, will there be limited employment in banking sector in the future?
Yes, maybe I would say you may go towards more skillful employment, Nilupama, through the digital channels. Yes, see, digital bank is not only the customer interfacing arrangements, but also in the back office, there are a lot of digital things that are happening. Now, again, for example, in NDB, we have about 14 robots working hand in hand with our staff through the RPA, robotic process automation. And yes, that has helped us to reduce the new headcount increases. So one way, yes. But on the other side, what these robots have replaced, the robotic processes have replaced are mundane, monotonous tasks earlier handled by the school leavers. Maybe some reconciliation or debit and credit entries where they are just not adding value, but as they're just passing entries or monitoring certain things, which is not value addition for even a staff. But now these staffs who are doing this, we have taken them to do more value addition kind of stuff, the work, so that they are also happy, rather than they get really frustrated in doing the same thing. So one can say, rather than, yes, there will be a reduction in future in terms of new employment, yes. However, the quality of work that the staff doing would go up because the mundane tasks have been taken by the digital channels. And you bring the efficiencies as well through the workflow solutions, the RPAs, a lot of back office work are now digitalized. So that would serve the customers better. Now, this would have been, if you look at maybe 35 years ago, the entire banking system was not on digital platforms, right? Digital now all had, probably would have seen in some museums and all the bank ledgers, and customers, all the records are on ledger form. The digital or the computer systems are introduced only in early 90s or late 80s. So we have to talk about over the last 30 years how this was revolutionized, and that has also reduced certain level of employment, yes. But this is the next revolution, all moving towards digital. There will be a certain level, but still banking as a profession will continue. That is probably my view.
Any more questions?
Mrs. Imanta, good afternoon. This is Indika. Would like to get to know about your ideas and thoughts on digital currencies, which are floating around the world, cryptocurrencies to blockchains. How would that impact on the economies of entire world, and especially the retail banking customers?
Yeah. So again, good question. Now we have to go there with a bit of a carefully you need to tread. And different countries, the regulators have taken steps whether to accept cryptocurrencies or not. Now, as a result, cryptocurrencies are not universally used as a mode of payment. Now, for that matter, even for Sri Lanka, the regulator has not supported the idea of having the cryptocurrencies as a means of settlement, because one is the blockchain. It's all based on the blockchain technology, and so that is a blockchain offers the security of this transaction end to end. But the usage can be used for different means, and here when a country is also required for very strong KYC, know your customer requirements, and on the anti-money laundering and all those governance framework is still new here in a country like Sri Lanka. Our regulator is also a bit skeptical about going for cryptocurrencies, but I would agree that is the future as well, and that basically moving towards one currency, irrespective of the country. You're moving out from different currencies for different regions or different countries to a crypto. So that may be the future, yes, but one has to be carefully moving there, and also you need to understand also regulatory thinking there before we move in. So none of the countries in our region has moved into the cryptocurrencies. So one has to be mindful of that as well.
Right, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Any other questions?
If there are no other questions, in the interest of time, I think we'll close the session. And on behalf of IBSL and the participants. Sorry, is there another question? Yes.
So this is Prabhat from Standard Chartered. So need to know about the CRIP process on these days and whether it's ongoing, update of their delinquencies or not, because that.
Sorry, Prabhat, I didn't hear your first part of the question. Can you repeat it, please?
Yeah, I just want to know about the CRIP about the CRIP these days, whether they are ongoing update or whether they stop, because I heard that circular number 5 CBSL announced that not to decline the loan based on the CRIP report. So as a director of the Credit Information Bureau, what is on your view, sir?
Okay. So what CRIP did was they put a new code to understand those customers under moratorium. Earlier, a lot of when it comes to political arena, customers listed in CRIP have been taken very seriously in the political arena. But CRIP also have good customers as well as those who are having difficulties in paying. So it reflects the actual credit situation of a borrower. So CRIP is providing, it has a wrong concept also earlier. When a customer is CRIP listed, you get the impression that, okay, these are bad customers, so that is why CRIP bad record. But CRIP basically provide information of all the borrowing customers of the country, whether it can be banking, it can be microfinance, or even financial, non-bank financial institution. So that's the whole database. So to ensure that the customers who have taken a moratorium facility due to the COVID situation, so that it won't hamper the credibility of the customer, customer would have built up a good credit score over a period of times, and because of the COVID situation, going to a temporary situation, they are unable to pay. That should not have an impact on the overall credit score of that customer. So therefore, the CRIP started having a separate code to identify, yes, these exposures are currently under moratorium. So the lending institution also would know when you get a CRIP report. Apart from that, what CRIP is doing now is a significant data migration. CRIP is going for a new system, which we have started about 1.5 years ago. We are hopeful that before the end of this year, we should be able to migrate into the new credit scoring system. So with that, prior to that, we all introduced the credit score, but a lot more features are coming in the CRIP, and it would be much faster as well. Now that's where now the I report, earlier customers are compelled to come to the Credit Information Bureau office in Fort or apply it through a bank branch, your own credit report. Now, 2 weeks ago, again, NDB basically tied up with CRIP to use through the NDB Neoster. Customer can basically raise your CRIP report directly without coming to a branch or without coming to CRIP. I mean, like that. So I think that then the end result would be you also call your own CRIP report, you have your own credit score. So with that, you can even apply for a bank facility. It can be NDB or any other bank facility so banks should also gear up to these developments. So that's why I say no longer it's banks bargaining area. It's, I think, going forward, it's customers bargaining area. So a customer armed with a CRIP, a customer armed with your I report and the credit score can take that and even take a credit from either a bank or even a non-bank financial institution or even a tech company. I mean, that's the future. So CRIP is gearing towards that. CRIP is also, with the new update, will have the utility payments as well, with utility payment details. So your telephone payments, electricity payments, water bill payments, and all that. So you get quite a good history of the serviceability of a client, and that would actually play a key role in deciding on how much credit that we can give, and that would be the leads to the healthy credit portfolio going forward in the country. So that's where CRIP is moving towards.
So one final question. So what do you think about the moratorium which has been circulated by the CBSL? Is that given to the rightful sustain to the banking industry?
So, what do you think? Sorry, the question is what I think about the moratorium.
Moratorium, yes.
Right. Okay. Now here, through COVID, this is an outside shock that the entire banking system, the entire customers we receive. Now, this is where, through the years, banks have been also asked to build up certain reserves. So, if you look at the Basel risk assessment, there is a capital that you keep for these kind of shocks, and that's where banks are asked to have minimum capital ratios, additional cushion to absorb these kind of shocks. However, for customer, we don't have that luxury. Customers' only income is either your salary or even a corporate client, your sales, or a middle-level customer, again, your sales. Those are the only income level. And when that is impacted for many months and the global economy also not performing, your exports are not going, and you can't import. Now, right now, there are restrictions in imports as well. And that is an external shock that a customer can't sustain unless your cash flows and your borrowing level is lower. So that's where the regulator came up. I mean, even prior to the regulator, we banks also we came up with certain structuring, knowing any bank having any customer having difficulties. First priority for any bank is basically to support that customer if that difficulty is a genuine one. We are not the guys who take the umbrella out when it is raining, right? So that is the help that you should provide. So that is what you call sustainable banking. So you have a sustainable level of clients to continue. So even that scenario, the moratorium is required, and the level of moratorium based on this. One is you need to offer this moratorium based on the ability of the lending institutions also, how they can manage. So if you look at the interest rate that is given for during the moratorium period, you note that for the commercial banks, a particular rate, it's AWPLR plus 1% was given. But for non-bank financial institutions, it is much higher, about 10 or 11% was given, because it's based on the institute, based on the financing institute ability to provide this moratorium is also looked at by the regulator before they introduce a moratorium. So I would say, given the situation we all faced, and even still we are in the third wave, some level of moratoriums are needed. So initially, when the COVID first wave came, the industry average, the exposure under moratorium was high as about 40%, which has now come down to around 20%. So that also shows we did the right thing, of course, at a cost to the banking industry, or at a cost to the banking and financial industry. That's where those cushions I mentioned, the capital cushions, are coming into play to support in a situation like this.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your kind cooperation.
Yeah.
Nilupama again. Nowadays, we can see that the retail banking services are provided by the other service providers, especially these mobile service providers like that. So, what is your view on that?
Yeah, see, so that's the future as well. You see, ultimately, if a customer is benefiting, you can't take that opportunity for a customer to get that benefit, no? So in that sense, even non-bank financial institutions providing retail services, you have to accommodate it. But only thing, the governance structure of these, I'm not referring to not only the tech companies, there are several mushroom kind of non-regulated financial institutions who call themselves financial institutions, also coming and providing some retail services. There's crowdfunding available in the market. There's various schemes of granular funding, last mile financing to reach to the grassroots level. So one has to be very careful of the regulatory regime of them as well, because in case of a default, okay, customer side you take it if it is a loan, but if you are going for other retail banking services, now on what platform they are operating, in case of a shock, how can they sustain, in case of a technical issue or a risk of data, cyber security, risk of data. I mean, all this you need to be mindful before moving into, because ultimately you are dealing with the data of a customer as well. Now that's where the banks or non-bank financial institution, they have a very strong governance network, governance framework, strong board audit committees, risk management committees, and strong regulator also to come and investigate and also ensure all these controls, and also cyber security controls and all. Whether these retail or the non-bank other institutes have these controls. In case of a breach of data, what would happen? I mean, you need to have all that before moving on to that kind of a service. That's my view.
I think in the interest of time, we will be closing the session. And on behalf of IBSL and the participants, I wish to place on record appreciation and thanks to Mr. Dimant Senviratne for enlightening the participants on the relevance of banking and the future despite your very busy schedule. Now, I should say originally we planned to have only 40 participants. Now we have 60. So we look forward for your continued support towards IBSL and grooming the future banking leadership in this country. And we also wish you all success in your future endeavors in raising the standards of banking industry in Sri Lanka. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Darren. Actually, I must thank the Institute and, as I mentioned earlier, all of you as well for inviting me. Actually, it is part of my duty as well as a old student of Institute of Bankers. I'm also a fellow as well, to provide something back to the industry and something back to these youngsters who are doing quite well in the industry. So whenever time permits, quite happy to come and contribute voluntarily, whatever the knowledge I have, not only in Sri Lanka, the overseas exposure and all. This is the time for me to share that knowledge. So thank you for providing that opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. With that, we'll end today's session. So see you next Sunday with another lecturer, and look forward for your continued participation in this session. Thank you.